shoes last night to see if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly!
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant.
Judgment, Austin.
Chloe, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinin.
You mean shining?
Shh! You wanna get sued?
Judgment, Austin.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a running.
Sorry for what?
But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Hey, yo, boss. I love it when he does that.
Let's watch.
Don't get me back to good bullshit.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. It's good to see you, Tammy Carr. I love AC/DC too. I like that mashup. I'm glad they let me play it. And I saw Detroit Rock City tonight. I also saw Baba Rose, Little Miss Sharon. I saw Lori, Ann Reynolds, Holly S, Hindsight, YouTubers, Suzanne, Kiki, Megan Els, Christy Smith. So good to see all of you guys. Margaret Chappell. So good to see you, Margaret Chappell. And Tammy Carr. Also, I see Adam Forever 21 and Show Poodles. So nice to see all of you guys tonight. I had a completely different show planned, and then someone alerted me that there was something else that probably needed to be discussed tonight. So I switched it over at the last minute. And best concert. Thanks, Tammy Carr. Thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of come up here and talk about a few things and then I had to track down a clip, which took me a little bit longer, right? So I went back and tracked it down. Thankfully, I could find it quickly. Hey, Hope Floats. And craziness going on. Kiki is probably a good word for it. And I kind of don't usually participate in a lot of the chats, but I kind of felt the need to do so because I was really surprised at what I was hearing. And then of course I wanted to go back and listen to it again, because sometimes when you listen to it the first time, you might not catch everything, or you might feel a different type of way after watching it for the second or third, fourth, fifth time, whatever. But we have a lot of clips to get to, because there was a few different things mentioned, like Pascal's interview that happened on March 29th with Seth. And I do remember this interview. Really, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it really was quite some time ago, right? It was well over a year ago that this interview happened. And it's interesting, some of the things that Jen is saying. Now, I feel the tension that is coming through with it, and I think everybody can feel it, especially if you're like an empath. You kind of get that vibe, right? That there's just been a lot of tension in the air, especially when it comes to law enforcement. And I cooled my jets on law enforcement. I don't have a problem pointing things out when things are necessary to point out, or if people are discussing it. I don't want to detour a conversation. I don't see a point in that. But I've cooled down quite a bit on law enforcement myself. I just don't really feel like they really deserve us to back off of them, just because I know that they're probably not going to come out and tell us anything. But I also think that they should, at least, especially because there's so much speculation. Hey, Bless, good to see you. So it's just one of those things where we kind of find ourselves, in the middle of things again, and then also kind of shaking our fist at law enforcement and saying, what on earth are you waiting for? What are you doing? What's going on? So that's kind of my take on things. Now, Jen's live isn't very long, but I also wanted to pull in the flashlight video so we can watch it again, because she was going to play it on the show, but then it wasn't wanting to let her share the screen or something. But anyway, she was having technical difficulties. So I did want to pull in what was said at that time too. So this is all happening back in March of 2024, right? We have around March 17th where this flashlight video came out, right? Nick Barris shared the flashlight video that was given to him. And then there were also clips that were leaked onto Facebook, or deliberately put onto Facebook, let's just be honest. But that's how we get the flashlight video, kind of what we all know it to be, through Mob Crew's reenactments. And Pinchot did do a reenactment, but his was a little bit different when it came to the possible outcome. But it was very well done in terms of spatial relationships to the house, where the light was coming from, even down to where some of the folks had lights on in their home and things like that. It was really precise. So, and we did go over that here. But tonight I just want to show you the video in question, which is the flashlight video. So we have a couple of clips to get through first with Jen. So let's do that. Yeah, I didn't know if you saw that, Meg. Sorry, I just came into the chat again, and then I saw something. So, yeah, I didn't know if you had a chance to look at that, guys. And I don't know if everybody has seen this. So I pretty much just broke it down. But this is kind of what was being said. And Jennifer Coffindaffer, she is one of the more reliable sources for me, I think, on YouTube. When I watch her, I kind of feel a little bit better knowing that she has been in law enforcement. She served in the FBI. So, but tonight I will say that I have to respectfully disagree with her while we're doing this review. You know, I don't mean anything negative or anything like that, but there's a couple of things that piss me off, you know, and we'll go over it. But just because I'm pissed doesn't mean that it's not correct. Or just because I disagree doesn't mean that I'm right. But I will say that I probably will be doing more disagreeing than agreeing tonight. That doesn't discredit Jen and the service that she's done or her time that she put in, right? You know, and I am not law enforcement. So, but here we go. Let's watch this first clip.
True crimers, welcome to Break the Case. I'm your host. I'm Jen Coffindaffer. I wanted to get on today. Again, this is kind of impromptu for those of you who have notifications and wonder why in the world this isn't more in advance. Behind the scenes, as I have time, of course, right in the middle of the Karen Read trial, but I've really been looking into, continuing to look into Sebastian Rogers' case. I'd like to continue doing a show on him at least every other week, if not every week. Why? Yes, I understand there's no breaking news per se, but you know, sometimes in law enforcement, you have to go back and you have to review and you have to reconsider what you know on a case. And there's just so many things on that case that have really, really been bothering me lately. And particularly, it comes down to law enforcement. It comes down to, is law enforcement being attentive to this case? Is this case going to end up like a Summer Wells case? What is happening behind the scenes? And I really had to take a moment of pause. I called a good friend of mine who to this day deals with NCMEC as an investigator, travels to Mexico all of the time. He was one of my first partners as an FBI agent. He's amazing. And then also really look back at the missing cases that I personally handled and really take myself back to that time and space. Fortunately, I never had a missing case that wasn't solved, but there are so many that go unsolved. And when I started looking back at this, I thought, what are we missing here? What is law enforcement missing here that this case not only may not ever be solved, but seems to have never really had even initial clues as to what happened to Sebastian Rogers? And this is what I mean. We have absolutely no video showing that Sebastian Rogers left his home. For those of you, and I'm sorry, I always forget to sort of set up the case. The setup to this case is in February of last year, Sebastian Rogers, an autistic young man of 15 years old, went missing in Hendersonville, Tennessee. The last person to see him was his mother, Katie Proudfoot. He lived under the roof of Katie and Chris Proudfoot. Chris Proudfoot was his stepson. His father is Seth Rogers, lives not far from Hendersonville in Tennessee, also had previously lived in California, but moved to another town, Clarksville in Tennessee, to be closer to his son. And one night he just went missing, went to bed. He was last heard from in terms of a thump from his bedroom, according to his mother, and literally seemingly vanished. And when I say seemingly, I always say in these cases, there's no teleporting, there's no bewitched, I'm dating myself, where you twitch your nose and you disappear. There's no UFOs that came in and sucked him up. So I hate even to use the word disappear, but in this case, the clues left seem like he disappeared. Why do I say that? There have been approximately 10 dogs, including one of the best dog handlers and best dogs in the nation, and many other dogs that are also very good at their job and well respected in the law enforcement community. And none of those dogs picked up Seth Rogers' particular scent. Yes, a human scent was picked up that went to a construction site, but there was no Seth Rogers scent that left the home. Even though, according to reports from his mother, Katie Proudfoot, he left without shoes, and she's certain about that. This was an unequivocal point that she made. He didn't have a lot of shoes, from my understanding, and it's clear that he left without his shoes, if you are to believe his mother on this point. And there's really no reason to lie about that point. In fact, it makes it look worse for Katie Proudfoot. So I believe that he left with no shoes. It's unclear whether he had socks or not. He left in the dead of the night. Sometimes she believes between 12:30 a.m. and 6 when she went to wake him up.
Okay, guys, so 12:30 a.m. and 6 a.m. when Katie went to go wake him up for school, left without any shoes. The dogs didn't pick up a scent. Hey, Ginger Girl's mom. Good to see you, Meow. Thanks for hitting that like button. Thanks for coming in, guys. Hey, Rogue. Thank you so much for hitting the like button, guys. So, yeah, just a lot to unpack in there in this clip here. I also have the clip that I wanted to show again. Hey, Roxy, I'm so confused, Roxy. I'm so confused. My first question was just why. I'm like, why? Just why? Why today? Why now? Why ever? Really? Because Meg, I mean, I'm like going, what the heck's going on, right? And then, like I said, I had a completely different show planned, and then this happened, and I was like, what in the world? Hey, Poppy Love. So yeah, crazy, but she brings in a couple of different points here. So this live was an impromptu live, right? She decided to get up. Lots of things are bothering her in the case, she said, and that was the reason why she decided to come on up and talk about it. Hey, Rosebud. And so she wants to talk about it. She said she did kind of consult with an old friend, right? One of her first partners in the FBI, who's still an investigator, right? And, you would really have to trust somebody with your life if they're your partner in law enforcement, right? Because you're going into situations where someone might want to hurt you. Hey, Connie S. Might want to hurt you, or they want to get out of the situation. So they might, push you down or hurt you to get out of the situation. Right. And so you really just have to trust somebody. There's a lot of reasons why you would have to really trust someone as your partner. So she said she took herself back to some of the missing cases that she dealt with, or all of the missing cases. I found it really interesting that she said that she never had one unsolved missing case. I'm just going to leave it at that. So she finds it to be bizarre that there are no clues, no video showing Sebastian leaving, right? And that was kind of going to be one of my points later on when she talks about the different cases and just referencing different cases in general. But specifically some of the ones that she worked that were solved, right? She said that she's got a perfect record. All of them have been solved. But she says that Sebastian seemingly vanished, right, between the hours of 12:30 a.m. and 6 a.m. And again, I mean, she even talks a little bit about it, but it is frustrating hearing that. So it just really is. It's frustrating hearing that. It just is. She talks about the 10 dogs that were really well trained, one of the dogs was the best in the nation. I was not aware of that. But she said there was no scent. No scent for Sebastian. She said Seth, but I believe she meant to say Sebastian, right? She said there was a human scent that was followed to the construction site. We all kind of talked about that before. A non-specific scent dog did pick up a scent, right? Left with no shoes. And that's according to Katie Proudfoot, who said none of his shoes are missing. Right. And then, you know, again, I think he didn't have a lot of shoes, in my opinion. Hey, Sherry. Good to see you. All right. I want to make sure I get your guys's. Oh, Roxy, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh my goodness. What did Poppy say? Let's see. I knew there was a good question up here. Let's see. Hey, Sammy. Sammy says, I'm so angry about the gaslighting and walkbacks. There's just no evidence, absolutely nothing. Oh, no, a boy went missing, but we don't care about flashlights and flashlights behind the house, CPS reports, tips, because it's nothing. Yeah, it's super frustrating, right? It's really, really frustrating. Because there are no clues of anything, really. But then the one clue that we have, all of a sudden, it's probably nothing, or it isn't anything. And I wanted to go back and revisit it again, you know, just to see what you all thought. Poppy Love says, I was shocked to hear her say she no longer thinks the lights behind the house going to the car and then one light going back to the house are relevant. Why the flip-flopping threatened or LE requested? Yeah, and I mean, I know that the tension has been really high lately, and I've been trying to kind of, you know, keep it simmered down on my part, but it is looking very suspicious in terms of high levels of corruption, right? Within our system, within the system, within Sumner County. And that's what makes us kind of pause and think that way too, Poppy Love. You're absolutely right. You know, the flip-flopping, it's like, are you being threatened to flip-flop, or is somebody asking you to do that, you know, and you feel a loyalty of some sort, which is never a good thing. You know, if somebody does something wrong, we should be able to, as a human race, be like, that's wrong, right? Because otherwise it just keeps going. Yeah, that was not on my bingo card either, hindsight. No, not in a million years. I was like, oh boy. And then I go over, I'm like, oh, okay. And, you know, I mean, I was heartbroken to hear it. I can't lie. I mean, you know, I've been really sensitive lately, but it still was like shocking and, you know, mind-boggling really to hear it. Rosebud says her opinion is just that, an opinion, and her involvement has done nothing to advance anything to this case except for getting her views and subscribers. Another shill in my opinion. Yeah, Rosebud, I can understand how you would feel that way. Absolutely. You know, I think Jen seems to be someone who enjoys talking about her, you know, true crime and maybe her career and you know, maybe being a little bit ahead of the curve, you know, and things like that. But I agree with you when you say that, you know, everybody's opinion is just an opinion and we're all just people. You know, it was disappointing, I'll say, to say the least, you know. Rogue says, don't ask me. I just felt shockwaves from the explosions on YouTube about an hour ago. Yeah, I mean, you know, when people send me these things and then I'm like, oh boy, you know, sometimes it's something that I'm really interested in or sometimes I'm not, but I was really definitely not expecting this today at all, you know. That is a great question, Poppy. Ginger Girl's mom says, is she being sued by someone or recasting to save her fanny? I don't know. And see, those are two other valid questions that would come from kind of what we're going to see or what we're going to review. Sherry Willette says, somewhere between 12:30 and 6. I thought she said she went to bed at 12. Right. I agree. And we also heard that a little bit more of a time frame like that whenever Nina was recounting what Chris told her, right? So she said like between 12:17 and 6. Chris has said himself between the hours of 12 and 6 in the morning, Sebastian has basically vanished. You know, and you don't just basically vanish. Something had to have happened. Somebody had to have gone into the home and taken him out somehow, which we don't see any evidence of that. He would have had to walk out on his own, which again, we don't see any evidence of that. But then the one bit of evidence that there was activity around the home, if we're expected to believe that Sebastian made it home. Now, lately, people have been speculating that maybe he didn't even make it home. Maybe there was the stop at the BP station and there was a handoff over there. I'm not on that track, but I'm not saying it couldn't be possible. But if we are expected to believe that Sebastian did make it home that night, well, then that's the only activity that was in the neighborhood. Otherwise, Katie has the answer because Katie was with him last. And it's not going after her. It's just stating a fact. A fact of the matter is, the fact, of the matter is Katie was the last one with her son. Hey, little Miss Sharon. Rosebud says, personally, I've never liked her with all of her supposed knowledge in missing persons cases. She's done nothing for this case. Well, and you know, I haven't always agreed with Jen. I will say that. I was glad when she came on, and I support people who are supportive of Sebastian. You know, it's a bitten me in the ass. You know, it really has. But that doesn't matter. What matters is finding him. I agree. And I thought it was interesting too, Rosebud, that she said that she was, you know, she had no, well, how she put it was that she's never had a case go unsolved. Sorry, I needed to make sure I quoted her exactly because I wrote down. Never had a case go unsolved. So, you know, all this knowledge, like you said, but then why can't we apply that to Sebastian's case? You know, because you can't compare apples to oranges in this case. If you said, you know, well, I dealt with a child who had went missing and they were autistic and they were found in the pond, but there was footage of the kid walking around. We knew where they were headed, right? That's comparing an orange to an apple. It's not an apple to an apple, you know. It's different. So no, we need to find a case comparison where the child just went missing, right? Like Lily and Jack, or like Summer Wells. That is more comparable. Those are apples. The kid that was found in the pond, that's like the norm that you would think maybe an autistic child who has a history of eloping would be drawn to the water, and so they would go there. And that would be your big clue, but then you also have the evidence backing it up. It's just like Elizabeth Smart's case, excuse me. Her mother made dinner that night. They were very, very busy. They had a death in the family, and her mother was making dinner, burned the potatoes. Her mother cranked the window open, and she forgot about it. They went up to the school because it was the end of school. There was award ceremonies. They had to get the harp up there for Elizabeth to play. They came home. The window was still cranked open when everyone went to bed that night. Everybody was tired. Nobody closed the window. When they got up and they realized, you know, when her sister finally mustered up enough courage to go tell them that she had been taken, they realized that there was a screen. The screen was cut, right? So it was like, oh, the window was open and the screen was cut. Those are the two, you know, main pieces of evidence that's how we know that somebody came into the house, right? That didn't happen in the Sebastian Rogers case. Yeah, I don't know what Doug's last name. Doug Bishop. She did Poppy, and we did a couple of, like, I mean, not the whole live, but it was a couple of clips from that live with Doug, and you know, there was some good stuff in there. but again, there were some things that I agreed with, some things that we didn't, but we did review it. So yeah, she did. Hindsight says, in my opinion, even her energy level was completely off in that. Yeah, I agree. I agree, hindsight. It was very odd. Just different. Yeah. Yeah. And just some of the things that were being said were very, I guess, much more different than what she has been saying, and I guess more negative. But I mean, she does explain how she got to that thought process, right? She spoke with an old partner. She took herself back to the other missing cases that she had solved. I mean, and Kiki says, have you heard the dispatch literally says pretty much the dog dug into the print found? Oh, no, I did not. I did not hear that. I know the one jumped into the retention pond. Roxy, Seth, basically, I took a couple of little screenshotties here. Yeah, he's one of the things that he said was, doesn't matter what tips we get if LE agency that is in control of the investigation doesn't do their job properly. Boom. I wish I could get the soundbite for that. But it's just a chat. But I mean, seriously, I'll read it again. This is what Seth said. Doesn't matter what tips we get if LE agencies that are in control of the investigation doesn't do their job properly. They could get tips all day. They could get a video of Sebastian, and if they don't follow up properly or do their job, what's the point? I mean, it's crazy. And then he also says, later, y'all, I can't listen to this stuff. I have stuff to do. I mean, I'm sure he was as disgusted as a lot of us were. Thanks, Meg. Yeah, Roxy. Our prayers are with you, Roxy. Hey, VW, hella girl. And Ginger's girl says, why isn't she taking the actual officer working Sebastian's case, talking to the actual officer working Sebastian's case? I don't know. Or at least applying what she knows from the other cases to that. I mean, I would think that would be more helpful than getting up there and saying, I think that we all I would challenge everybody to, because one thing that we'll hear her say is that she challenges, I can't talk tonight, challenges us all to start looking at this case like a cold case. It's Sebastian's case. Like a cold case. But then she didn't give us any kind of feedback on how we should be doing that, right? Because I'll take notes. I'm not in the FBI, I told you. But it's like, what is going on here? There's been so many people threaten Poppy Love, even the judge. Yep, and I have some footage for later about that too, because she wanted us to go look up Pascal, so I went over and looked up Pascal. I am considering the possibility of what Love in Vegas said. And I haven't gone over to Love in Vegas. Her energy doesn't really match mine, and so it's like very in your face and like very aggressive, and I'm not that way, so I'm like, ugh. Rosebud says she said she wants the case to go cold, but gives no information as to what to do next. Yeah, absolutely, Rosebud. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant by that too. Yeah, thank you for your comment. Absolutely. Like I said, I'd be taking notes, like trying to figure out what's the next step. How do you mean? What exactly do you mean by that? Like, tell me exactly what you mean. I'm just that type of person. I'm very cut and dry. Sometimes I might even come off as like rude when I say things or ask questions. It's just, I'm very cut and dry like that. It's like, what do you want out of me? If you give me your expectations of exactly what you need out of me, I will do it. But until then, if I don't freaking know, I don't freaking know, you know. Sammy says, I've worked in almost every aspect of public safety over the last 25 years, and my poker face and ability to compartmentalize are unmatched, but this has made me angry all day. Right? Exactly. And not NB. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I usually can do that as well. I mean, I'm decent at that, but I mean, gosh, I don't know. I just kind of lost it after. I was like, what the hell is going on here? It's like being blackmailed or something. Absolutely. Well, we know there's threats, and there's been threats forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, you know, and since the very beginning. Oh, me too. That's all I could do is put a broken heart emoji in the chat, Ginger. Ginger Girl's mom says, seeing Seth upset and not being able to listen to her and leave the chat broke my heart. Yeah. Like, again, I was like, why? You know what I mean? And I know that's a silly question. And I know it's like more of a rhetorical question. Hey, Funtuski. But yeah, it's like, why? What is possessing people to do such fuckery is what just every time I turn around in this case, you know. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and play this one. I want to play this from Smiley that we watched the other night about the shoes. Make sure.
The night, Sunday night, when you said there was a noise, what type of noise do you think that was that you heard? So if there was an emergency, would he run out of the house like that barefoot? Or would he throw on his slippers, do you think, because they're by the front door?
Honestly, it could go either way. I know his dad said that he hasn't seen him go outside without shoes on since he was 2. But I, however, have had a different experience with Sebastian where he does go outside without his shoes on. There's been several times where he takes the trash out in his socks, and I'm like, dude, you got to put shoes on.
Yeah.
But I would say, honestly, it would just depend, I think, on the situation.
Yeah. So you have a padlock. Is that what you said earlier, that you have a padlock on the, you know, like, I forget what they're called, but you know, where you put the code in, a code lock?
Yeah, not a padlock.
I didn't mean a padlock. I'm sorry. The code where you put the code in.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So would he turn around if he left and actually put that code in? Do you have to put the code in to lock it back?
He locks the door behind himself every time he goes out it.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to think. Is there anybody like I don't know if y'all have housekeepers or what, like, is there anybody you could think of? And I know I'm sure you gave it to the police that might have had the combination that could have come in like while you were asleep that the dogs would not be alerted to or anything like that.
The only people that would have access to my house have all been interviewed.
Okay. Oh, man. I don't know.
And not only that, but if somebody had been by the front door, punched in the code, believe it or not, no, it's not super clear, but you would have seen a shadow or a figure.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Based on, something would have been visible because one of the lights is still visible from that Ring camera from across the street.
Yeah.
That has been, like I said, every video, and I've said this through Facebook, everything in the neighborhood. I couldn't talk to you enough positive about my neighborhood because anybody had cameras voluntarily gave up hard drives, flash drives, access to clouds for them. They've let people go in and search their houses multiple times without needing a warrant or a subpoena or anything. They've just openly done it. So, I mean, that's why it's so difficult right now.
Yeah. Now they come out and I know this is part of the investigation, so you may not can answer this, but it was public because we saw them with our own eyes. So they come out about 11 times, counting the backyard where they took pictures. Okay. So did they come in and check as well the 11 times, or did they do forensics like a luminol or anything like that?
No.
Asking.
No. That I can answer. No, they haven't done that. We actually, Katie and I sat down at our table, in our dining room, and that's basically where everything conducts itself. We sat down with them in the dining room, and I asked them flat out, I was like, what about fingerprints? Mm-hmm. I mean, can we not take fingerprints? What can we do? Can we check this? Can we check that? And they said, no, and they explained why fingerprinting would not necessarily be where they would get a hit was ridges and things like that compromised the fingerprint.
Yeah.
And then he goes, despite TV and the movies, that stuff you see is not necessarily true. I was like, okay, well, that's cool. I just, they said, think of anything. Well, we were thinking and asked them, how about this? And how about that? What about this? What about that? And we got shot down.
Yeah. So, is there or is there not a couch in front of the back door?
No, there is a couch in front of a door.
In front of a door. Okay. I was just wondering. So, so can he get out the back? Okay. So he can go.
Is there an exit out the back of the house? Yes. That's unobscured from anything. Yes.
Okay. So, okay. But what I'm asking is, how did you know that he went specifically out the front door? What made you think that?
We presume that he left out the front door. We never know 100%, obviously, but we presume based off of process of elimination, going over it with law enforcement, going over the house, where things are, how things are, Sebastian's routine, and the fact that that's the door that he always uses or prefers to use, because I won't say 100% of the time he does come in with me through another door, but that's the door Sebastian prominently uses. That's the one that if he were going to sneak out of the house or leave the house for whatever reason, that's the most reasonable door that he would have left out of. Any of the others would have made noise or not been.
Or would not have been locked.
Mm-hmm.
So the back door would not lock
from the outside like the front. No, you'd have to have a key.
So I'm not going to describe every door lock in our house. That's a safety thing.
Yeah, I understand that. Don't do that.
But what I can say is there's only 2 doors in the house that he could have gone out where he could have locked on his own or from the outside. And the one, he wouldn't have gone out because of how much noise it makes.
Yeah.
Everybody would have, plus it would have been seen on camera. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I mean, it would have been seen on camera. So by suspicion or reasonable elimination of all these doors, it's front door.
Okay. And there was no windows unlocked or anything like that y'all can tell or could tell. I'm sure they looked at all that.
Yeah, with the screens intact and things like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nothing exterior of the building of our house has been altered.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why it was like, not only that, but for him to go out the window, so to speak, he would have landed in the flower bed and, barefooted. Yeah, we'd have heard something because he had landed on it and screamed.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to play that whole clip because it does, state again that there was nothing tampered with at the house. Everything was locked according to them. I know that there was a neighbor that said that there was a window open, but according to Chris and Katie, the whole house was, not tampered with and locked up tight. Thanks, Retha Bell. Thank you for being here. Good night, Connie S. Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to get on earlier. I did. And I agree with you, Holly. I just think it's got to just be devastating and icky feeling. I know we kind of have an icky feeling tonight. Yeah, and I agree with Fontuski too about the decenting, because for hunting and things like that, it kind of takes the odor or the scent away. Meg says Fontuski, it's sold at Walmart in the hunting and fishing department. Hunters use the laundry detergent to remove any kind of scent from the clothing. Yep, they sure do. That they do. So I want to show you guys this next clip with Jen. Yeah, hopeful. It says, I know Smiley was hot. Seth was in the chat when JC called him. Yeah, Seth too. Yeah, Sebastian. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she definitely meant to say Sebastian. I agree, Hope Floats. Yes, prayers for you too, Connie S. I don't know, Retha Bell. I don't know if someone got to her. I haven't unsubscribed myself. You said I don't need her any longer. She immediately said goodbye, basically. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it worries me. I will say that because there has been so much flip-flopping back and forth that I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping she was just having kind of a moment where she wanted to get up and kind of speak her mind about what she was talking with about her partner and things like that, something like that. But I don't know what's going on. Holly S says, it makes no sense to me why she would do a 180 out of the blue like this. And it was insensitive to say all of that. I don't get what she thought and she was doing to accomplish. Exactly. Or what she thought she was going to accomplish, rather. Exactly, Holly S. That's what I felt too. Yeah, I absolutely felt that way, you know, and I also thought, poor Sebastian. Why would you do that? Why would you say that? You know, we don't need to be doing that, you know? Yeah, for everybody, especially Seth. I agree. I mean, it's so frustrating. Hey, Butter Biscuit, good to see you. Wants us to think he took the trash out, Shell Poodle says. And that's another thing. I mean, it's either one or the other. If there was a handoff, you know, and Sebastian didn't even make it home, or he did make it home, right? But if we're expected to believe he made it home, then a whole new set of circumstances comes into play, right? Like the fact that there was nothing tampered with, the fact that there's no evidence that he left, things like that. So if he made it to the house, you know, that's just one way to look at it, right? If he made it to the house, for sure, he made it to the house, took the trash out, like Katie said. At some point in that night, in that time frame, he was taken out of the house by someone, or he left by his own volition in that situation. But we know he didn't leave on his own because there's no evidence, and even law enforcement said there's no evidence that he left the home, right? So it just causes us to pause again. Oh, you heard that JC and Mob had a falling out. She mentions Mob, and she mentions the flashlight video, and so here, let's get into it. Let's get into this.
It was cold that night, although it was really the next night that got freezing cold. This night was in the 50s, still very, very cold by the standards of being barefoot and without a jacket. He had no coat. He had on lightweight, those Adidas type sweatpants with the stripes on the side, and sort of a lightweight type long sleeve shirt. And that's it. And disappeared into the night somehow. He had 2 dogs. They were apparently crated. There's just still not a sign of him. But I want to focus in tonight, and this isn't going to be a long live, but it was just something I've really been bothered by. And that is law enforcement's sort of response on this. And again, pulling back to my experience, and then even calling a previous partner of mine and us really talking about this case. As law enforcement, when you have a case like this, there's almost no other cases you work that pull at your heartstrings like this. Really any case involving a child, but in this case involving a 15-year-old at the time. He's 16 now, he turned 16 in December. But somebody that is autistic, even though extremely high functioning, you still realize how vulnerable someone with autism can be. And I remember being in those shoes, having a case very similar. I'm not going to talk on it again because I've talked about it several times, but just to say that you live and breathe it every minute when you're working that case. You don't sleep. Sometimes people don't even leave the office. They fall asleep there. They don't go home because they realize the urgency. The minute you get on that case, you've got to work at full bore. There's no time to take 8 hours to go to bed. You need to work, and you need to all work in unison as a team and get as many people on board with it. And you search and you on the background are conducting the interviews and polygraphs and doing everything you need to do to interview all of those who had any interaction. And you're getting those digital devices, and you're trying to get that even looked at exigently right away. And there's no part of me in this case that believes that Sumner County, because they are the lead, they were the lead, they still are the lead, that is not going to change. I don't believe they have jurisdiction. It's like Moscow, Idaho, that huge case, Moscow, Idaho, even though it's the venue's been changed in terms of court, still, nevertheless, the lead investigative agency, when you're talking about on paper who the lead is, who had the last decision-making power, and the prosecution being local, meaning Idaho as opposed to federal, it always stayed in that venue because you look at who has the strongest venue. And even though many people want the FBI to take over, there's absolutely, in this case, unlike Idaho, there was actually some venue there because Bryan Kohberger, if it is indeed Bryan Kohberger, crossed state lines from Washington to Idaho to commit that crime. So certainly there is federal jurisdiction, and not to digress, but I guarantee you, if anything happens in the local prosecution for some reason that is now being prosecuted out of, or I should say it's being tried out of Boise, they change venue. It doesn't matter. The prosecutors are still the same. The defense team are still the same. But believe me, I believe strongly that the federal authorities would pick that case up, and they certainly have jurisdiction to do so. But I don't want to digress. I just want to say that we have absolutely no jurisdiction right now for the FBI to take this case over. And remember, the FBI wants to work closely with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and with Sumner County and their local authorities. This is so important for all cases that federal, state, and locals all work hand in hand and support one another and do everything they can to solve these cases. I want to put up a video of the most recent interview of Craddock, which was about a year ago with Nick Byers, who has, been on this case from the beginning, and just have you take a look at how strong his stance is a year ago on this. But essentially, it's regarding that light video. And for me, I've reviewed it so many times, and I know Mob Crew and many other creators have really tried to dissect that. And it's just stuck with me. It's stuck with me because I just went back and reviewed that video again, the Nick Barris video, which I strongly recommend you all review again. But I can tell you, in looking at that video, I am now more suspect than ever that it indeed might not be as significant as I thought it was. I know I've been very dogmatic about it.
All right, guys, so you heard her say it, that the lights video might not be as significant as she thought it was. So, I mean, I was not expecting to hear that, I just wasn't. Funchewski says JC removing herself from the case, just like the other cases that she goes full tilt and then disappears. So you have to listen. I first felt like someone tells her to back off, in my opinion. Yeah, and it very well could have been a situation where somebody, even her partner, I think Holly S. said, it could have been something like that where her partner was like, you should really simmer down or back off. Absolutely. It couldn't have, maybe it wasn't even somebody affiliated with the case per se, but it could have been, her partner's best advice. Honestly, there's been a lot of people, who have told me to step away, and I'm, 3,000 people, and that's it. And just a show on YouTube. Right. But we're going to get more into that in a little bit here. Yeah, exactly. YouTuber taking the trash out barefoot on a pathway versus into the woods. KP. Absolutely. Absolutely. Retha Bell says, Roxy, you will be angry. Sounds like someone got to her. In the comments, I told her it's not a cold case to me and was unsubbing. Yeah, it's definitely not a cold case. And that's what I kind of put in the comments myself. Well, in the chat, I should say, because it's not cold. There's a lot of people who are interested in this case, in my opinion. And Meg says his effing neighbors allowed them to search their homes, but he doesn't let them search his home. Exactly. Yeah. And they gave up all their camera footage, but of course the Proud Feet didn't have any camera footage because they got rid of it, in my opinion. Movies like Sling Blade, CP. Exactly. I know, the voice makes me sick. Lori says, exactly. Ugh. Just gross. That's where they screwed up, Kiki says. Yep. Yep. Fingerprints are Ridge's laughing buffoon. Yep. Yeah, they are. It's not normal, Retha. It's not. That's not normal to just sit down at home to be questioned, in my opinion. Absolutely. No. Not at all. Not at all. No luminol. Hey, Bubby. Good to see you, Bubby. And Holly S. says, I don't believe that they interrogated these people. I really don't. I don't think so. We never saw them get taken down to the station and questioned, in my opinion, you know. Hey, Just Me. Okay, so let's watch this flashlight video. Let's get right into it because she wanted us to watch it.
We begin with a surprising development in the search for 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers, who's been missing for 18 days. An exclusive look at new video evidence. Thanks for joining us here at 6. I'm Rory Johnson.
And I'm Hunter Hoagland. A lot to get to here tonight. Authorities have scrutinized home security video from that Hendersonville neighborhood, trying to learn what happened to that teen with autism.
Now you can take a look for yourself. Our Nick Barris obtained video that appears to show two people near Sebastian's home the night his parents say he disappeared.
The video you are about to see is from early Monday morning, February 26th, around 3:10 a.m. Now, there are no street lights in the Stafford Court neighborhood, so it is at night, pitch black. What you will see here are these 2 points of light believed to be people with flashlights in the area around Sebastian Rogers' Hendersonville home. It is believed Sebastian left his home barefoot and with a flashlight sometime overnight. Since his disappearance, authorities have reviewed security video from homes in the neighborhood looking for clues.
We have had several clips that have come in.
And this one is getting the most attention, showing signs of activity around Sebastian's home the night he disappeared. You see 2 light sources, which we've circled to help you follow. For point of reference, the security camera was pointed toward the back of Sebastian's home in a common area. In the video, you see subject 1 with a light source in the lower right-hand corner. Then you see subject 2 briefly appear and move toward the first before that light source is covered or obscured by bushes. Subject 1, a few seconds later, then moves out of frame. Then subject 2 reappears and follows subject 1 off screen. It's a short time later, and it's very vague, but then you see one of the subjects moving quickly back through the common area, and that is it. I know, there's not much to see here. You certainly cannot identify anyone, but those close to the investigation tell me the mere fact that there is now evidence that someone is in the area around Sebastian's home is significant. This video shows suspicious activity in the immediate area the night Sebastian disappeared. Could one of these subjects have been Sebastian? Did he meet and leave with someone? Sebastian's father says his son would not go with a stranger.
It's up in the air for me because I don't think he would get into a vehicle with somebody unless he knew them.
So what exactly are we seeing here? I know investigators are doing what they can to try enhancing the video for any more clues. For now, this video is now part of the Sebastian Rogers missing person file, and I'm told it could become more significant depending on where the ongoing investigation leads. We'll be following that. Nick Barris, News Channel 5.
Okay, guys. So, hey, Borna Honey, good to see you, Tina Girl. So, there it is again, you know, and it is vague, and I get it, but you see the light source going back. So, for me, I just don't see how anybody can say that that's not suspicious, that light sources are coming from the house and then going back to the house. And then all of a sudden, poof, there's a child that's missing. A 15-year-old child goes missing. So, you know, Jen just reiterates what Sebastian was wearing that night. Long sleeve black shirt with Adidas style pants with the white stripes down the side. His glasses, allegedly, and no shoes. Took the flashlight. Seemingly to be set up since they knew that the flashlight video existed at that point. Just saying. So we also know that the dogs were probably not crated that night. At least I'm not convinced of that. And the reason why is because Chris even said on Queen Bee's panel that when he's out of town, the dogs don't sleep in the pen, they sleep with Katie. So that was a slip right there. So no, we do not know for sure whether the dogs were in the crate or they weren't. We do know that in the beginning, Chris said that he told Katie to put the dogs up and go to bed. But we still don't know whether that happened or not, or whether she said, yeah, and then they went in bed and slept with her like they do when he's out of town, like he stated. Again, Jen says that with her experience and into consideration and considering what she spoke about with her previous partner, that she really needs to take the fact that Sebastian was on the autism spectrum into accountability, because autistic people are more vulnerable than other people, arguably. Also, she says that the FBI agents that take on cases will live and breathe the case. A lot of them don't get sleep. They stay at the office and fall asleep at the office, things like that, because they realize the urgency, and they also know that they have to work as a team. They need to be searching. They need to be interviewing. They need to be polygraphing. They need to be looking at digital devices. They also need to look at all of this information right away. Again, urgent, very swift. It needs to happen absolutely fast. She also goes in to say that Sumner County Sheriff's Office is still the lead in the case. They still have the case. It's in their jurisdiction, the last decision-making power, if you will. The prosecution is also local, and the powers that be there are the ones that decide whether it will be prosecuted or not, all on a local level, all screaming corruption. Because if we go back to what Jen just said about her experience level, which I have no doubt in my mind about her experience level, I have no doubt in my mind that, taking into consideration that Sebastian has autism, the rare chromosome deletion, the pocket of fluid on his brain, he could be perceived as more vulnerable. However, when she goes into talking about how dedicated these officers are to the case because they realize the urgency, I have to pause and wonder if she is making the connection between what's going on in Sebastian's case and what she typically sees. Because in all honesty, we saw the search, but the interviews and the polygraphs were very, very, very sparse, right? Because even Seth himself said that he was not made to be given a polygraph, that he took one on Nancy Grace, right? So it doesn't seem like anyone was handing out polygraphs. But when Jen describes what typically happens in the case, that is part of what she is saying is happening. So where is the connection? Where is she making the connection, or why isn't she, maybe is a better question, making the connection between what's typically happening in all of the cases that she's worked that have been solved, and then what's happening in Sebastian's case? Because in my opinion, when we look at that, it's very clear to see that someone's messing up. Someone's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Interviewing, polygraphs, those are the two things. Did they search? Hell yeah, they searched. They searched high and low, but they had no evidence of anything according to them. So that's when the investigative side has to come in, and you have to do the interviews, and you have to do the polygraphs, and you have to find out who's telling the truth and how much evidence to prove it, right? What's out there to prove what happened. Otherwise, you don't have a case. So Jen also talks about how jurisdictions work. So, like, for example, as soon as something goes across state lines, a crime goes across state lines, that automatically puts it into federal jurisdiction, right? The FBI gets involved and it becomes a federal case. FBI has zero jurisdiction here. But then she backtracks and says, but the FBI wants to work with Sumner County and TBI. But the only one that has power to allow for that is Sumner County. And she does not foresee them giving the case up, and neither do I, just to be quite honest. she also says that they all support each other so that they can solve the case. And again, I'm just wondering, because everything that she's saying that should be happening isn't, in my opinion, right? Or there's a lot of holes in what should be happening and what is happening. Because Jen backtracks, you know, on the flashlight video, and then she says it may not be significant. And I'm just thoroughly disappointed because that's the evidence that we have. And now she's saying, well, I'm very suspicious of that evidence. How? It came from the neighborhood. It came from surveillance cameras in the neighborhood. Oh, I think so too. I think she's a huge asset too, Holly S. You know, hey, Ann Brock, and I can't lie, but you know, saying like something like this is like a huge liability in my opinion. You know, now, Holly S says felt like damage control in my opinion, a quick favor, like she had to get all that out and did not engage with the chat or anything. Very odd. Yeah, and it was totally impromptu as well, right? Wasn't expected, you know. Was not expected. Hey, C. Taylor says she inserted herself in that case. She came out with stuff before the first trial that only an insider would know. Trial 2 has destroyed her info. Oh, I'm guessing Karen Reed. Is that the one? Probably Karen Reed. Hey, Polly's Cookies. Good to see you. Yeah, Jen, so do tell what it is then. A few killer fireflies and a holographic image of a vehicle. Good point, Polly. Great point. I mean, it's like, what in the world, you know? I mean, it drives me bananas. It just drives me bananas. Oh, thank you for the super sticker, Holly S. Thank you so much. Aw. That was sweet of you. It wasn't supposed to be released, Kiki. You're right. You know? I know. I wish we could see the whole video, Lori. And it's the same thing with the Texas Roadhouse video because it is in parts, right? Because even when I was looking for Town Chat Cafe last night, oh gosh, you know, and I needed to email her back. But either way, it's like it's all in different parts, right? So I'd have to send her links for each piece of it. Because it's not like we got like a, you know, the 30-minute or 40-minute dinner all the way through from beginning to end. So the one she was previously dating, Holly, yes, exactly. I mean, it makes you wonder. Meg says, and who's to actually say he was wearing those clothes? His mother, who lost him. We are made to believe so much bullshit only because it came from the one who lost him. Exactly. They could tell us he was wearing anything at all, you know? Absolutely. Yeah, and we would just have to take their word for it until we know differently. Absolutely. Hey, Vic. Hey, Vic. Oh, thank you, Kiki. Kiki says, Casey said dogs went to the crate. Does that mean CP was home? Well, it could be taken that way, right? But I mean, even Chris himself, he said that. He's like, yeah, she lets him sleep in the bed when I'm not home. You know, but he did. He told her to put the dogs up and go to bed, right? That was his statement. So it could very well mean that he was home and told her, put the dogs up and let's go to bed. You know, or told her to go to bed. And Meg says KP didn't even see her son after she heard a thud to know if he was wearing a bunny outfit or clothing. In my opinion, she's an unreliable source. Absolutely. Yeah, we have no idea what he was wearing, and neither does she, like you said. I mean, if he was rustling around in the room, maybe he was changing his clothes, and maybe we don't know what he was wearing. I mean, very many scenarios come into play. Little Miss Sharon Ellie are getting plenty of sleep with this case. I mean, gosh, it's like they can't even be bothered to come out and say anything either. It just drives me nuts. Hey, Cinderella. I am too, Cinderella. I am too. I'm so sick of my intelligence being insulted. I'm no genius. Common sense goes a long way. Hello. I mean, I feel the same exact way. It's super frustrating. It's like, and then especially to try to make us believe something that's completely unbelievable or doesn't make any damn sense whatsoever. It's like, really? You're expecting me to believe this? You know, and then you're getting upset with me because I don't believe it? Like, what? It's nuts. It's absolutely fucking nuts. Hey, Trishy, good to see you. Hindsight says, Cinderella, it goes further than anyone can imagine. You know? It's crazy. It's just crazy. Okay, guys, so let's get back up to these clips here. And this is going to be the next one with Jen. This one.
But this is the problem. It's so grainy. It is so distorted. It is so unclear as to the angles that we're looking at and the distance and so forth that I am now really starting to wonder how significant it is. In large part, also because of what law enforcement has said. And law enforcement has specifically said it is not significant. I've always been troubled by that because I know everyone thinks that law enforcement lies to the public. Believe me, I understand that. But law enforcement really doesn't. The FBI just doesn't say anything, typically. And law enforcement really does not want to lie to the public. That, in large part, is why I think you haven't heard much from law enforcement. Because law enforcement doesn't have anything to say, and they don't want to lie and mislead. And they're going to get pummeled with questions on this case, and they don't have anything to say, so they're not going to give a press conference. That's as simple as that. But in regard to that light video, I also looked back at all of Seth Rogers. I've just spent doing this over the last hour. All of Seth Rogers' statements regarding the light video. If you look back on the March 29th interview of him that he gave to Pascal, it's the best one. I really recommend you go back and look at that. I would show it right here, but for some reason, when I'm sharing my screen, apparently it's not working. I really apologize. But nevertheless, please go back and look at what he says. He specifically says that he met with law enforcement. He describes it and says, the video we are seeing that Barris got in part, not all of it, that's very short, that the video is much, much longer. And that the video that he's seen, which is the original that law enforcement has, shows depth. It shows how a vehicle turned and was obstructed by bushes. And so it appeared that the light was missing, and then the light comes out. And then as it continues to go, now the lights seem together. He's really, really specific. And he also talks about how law enforcement showed him this in the light, and Mob Crew did something very similar, right? We call it overlaying. I think there was another individual that is a close associate of Mob Crew that Pinchu, I believe his name was, that was very intricate, involved in doing overlays in conjunction with what Mob Crew was trying to do. But the bottom line is, I don't think Mob Crew, myself, Pearls, and many others, we don't have what law enforcement has. And that's what makes me go full circle with what I'm going to say tonight. We don't have what law enforcement has. There is a reason that law enforcement literally pulled Seth Rogers in and Katie Proudfoot in and told them that that video, the light video, is not in play. And I know that I, for one, have been pretty emphatic that from what I see on there, we can see those two objects. But as I go back and continue to analyze and look at all we know in this case, and really literally go backwards and look from the beginning, everything that's happened, which is what I'm doing. I'm treating it like a cold case. And that's the first thing you do, is you start from the beginning. And I just know law enforcement knows so much more than we know. And I don't think they lied to Seth and Katie. Now, some of you may say, Jen, Seth has said other things. You know, I've even tried to pin Seth down when he's been on my program or when I've been on with him. Seth, did they really tell you this? Did you really believe it? And it's interesting because I find Seth to be very intelligent, but also very, very, very vulnerable. And he is someone that wants his son back so badly. He's somebody truly hurting. I know there's a lot of people, I've seen it all over the place, it drives me insane, that just hate Seth. I don't know what to say about that. Everybody has to make their own conclusions. I realize that I think Nancy Grace asked him, what has law enforcement said about that? And he says words to the effect really quick. I think they haven't said anything or words to that effect. And that was after, about a year after. I think that was in January of 2025, that interview. If you guys want to go back to it, I might have it written down the exact date, January 31st, 2025. I think what he's saying, I think he just wants it all to make sense. I think, like the rest of us, none of it makes sense.
Okay. So a lot wrong with that, and I'll show you all what I'm talking about. So law enforcement never called it insignificant. It's a part of Sebastian's case file, right? We heard Nick Barris say that. When Sheriff Craddock was asked about the lights video by Nick Barris, he said that it may come into play later, but it's not of importance right now. He never called it insignificant, Jen. LE lies to the public all the time, Jen. They can lie to us if they haul us in for questioning. They can tell us somebody is unalived and show us, that they are, just to see what our reaction is. So please stop. Please, 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 please don't do that, because it just makes, that just makes you look bad saying that when you know that's not true, right? Then she goes on to say that law enforcement just won't say anything at all. I'm here to tell you, there's something called lying by omission. So if you know the truth and you don't say anything at all, that's still lying by omission. That means you're not saying it, but you have knowledge of it. It's guilty knowledge, right? Lies by omission, lie to the public, lie during interrogation. They can lie their asses off. Seth's statement of the lights video, we're going to see that in a minute on Pascal. The reason why they met with law enforcement, Jen, is because Seth requested proof of life for Sebastian because he had not seen him since the weekend before that Thursday before. Or excuse me, since he hadn't talked to him since that Thursday before, and the weekend previously he was with him because it was Seth's weekend, right? But law enforcement did not pull them in for a meeting. They didn't just pull Katie and Seth in for a meeting and say, here you go. No, that's not what happened. Katie doesn't need to see the video of herself getting into a vehicle at the Texas Roadhouse. But Seth needed to see it for proof of life of his son, whether his son was still even friggin' alive or not. That's how much they were lying to Seth by omission. Not giving him the right information and then hauling him in to show him some bullshit where they, again, lied to him. That's what the truth is. And the truth is that was not a meeting that law enforcement requested of the parents. That was something that Seth had requested. Because he just didn't know what was going on. At all. Doesn't seem fair, doesn't seem right. So, either way, Jen goes on to say that they met with LE and Nick Barris oh, excuse me, in Seth's statement, I remember him saying that he met with LE and that he thought that Nick Barris was just using the video for clickbait, right? And I think that he was under that assumption because of what law enforcement told him, obviously. The actual video was much longer, and the original video was with law enforcement, right? And they had different ones. It was the same, well, we'll just put it this way. It was the same video, but it was cropped. The video that Nick Barris had, was cropped, a cropped version of that video, right? Then there were a couple others that were posted to Facebook. But law enforcement has the actual original. I also, too, wanted to say that I don't believe that Pincho Paxton is in any way affiliated with the mob crew. Just, again, putting out another bit of, kind of misinformation that was kind of spewed out in this clip. Very frustrating, and, just very frustrating. That's a good point, Holly S. says, and Doug Bishop sat on her panel a week ago and said the FBI is involved, so what the hell? I mean, I'm sitting here with the flyer from the FBI right behind me. It's an FBI flyer, the logo, I mean, is it really just designed to completely ninja our brains, or what's going on? Hey, Justice Jane, thank you for hitting the like button. Megan says, I think she was talking to the bearded guy who thinks CP is a cool dude and wants to get to know his beard better, in my opinion. Yes, so I agree. Yeah, and and I don't think Doug saw all of it. I would have busted out some clips right then and there, just even audio version, what's going on. Hey, Mally Cat. And why would CPS know where he is? Good point, Show Poodles. Great point. Yeah. So let's watch this next one, since we're kind of on a roll. So this is Pascal, right? When Seth came on Pascal, this was posted March 29th. Okay, March 29th, 2024. Ooh, there we go.
Seth Rogers to the show. Seth, how you doing, my brother?
I'm alive. Boots on the ground still.
No doubt.
I am my son's voice.
No doubt. No doubt. How has things been recently?
It's been like a John Grisham novel, to be honest. Just the amount of weird shit. I mean, can I cuss on here?
Yeah, you're good, bro. It's a late night show. It's a Friday. We good.
All right. It's just some weird stuff has been going on as of late that it's just weird. My volunteers have been having people follow them while they handed out flyers and stuff like that. So
people are getting followed, you said?
Yep.
Do you mind expanding on that a little bit?
I just tell my volunteers that get together to help pass out flyers for Sebastian. They noticed that vehicles be following them. And I told them if they see anybody following them, get their license plate number. And I pass it off to TBI.
That's what's up. Wow. So people are getting followed, allegedly. People are getting followed who are just passing out flyers, volunteers that are just contributing in trying to find your son. That's very odd. Have you seen anything like that yourself? Have you been followed?
Can't intimidate me. I have a goal in mind.
Gotcha. Have you already reported that? Because that basically says yes to me. So have you reported that at all to TBI or any law enforcement at all? That you have been followed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has it changed as of late, or are you still getting followed?
I haven't been followed today.
When did you report to TBI that you were actually getting followed? Was that yesterday or was that a few days ago?
I've reported some license plate numbers to TBI. I let them know a couple weeks ago that some of my volunteers were being followed.
That's just crazy to me. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
That's very, very weird. We might circle back to that question here in a second, or at least that topic here in a second.
Okay, guys, so you heard it. There's the threats, but here we go for this next part.
But I do have some questions. I know that there has been some updates. You and Katie Proudfoot, at least Katie Proudfoot, were in the same room with TBI, and they gave you some updates. Can you tell me anything that came of that conversation with TBI?
The video with the 2 flashlights on there, they showed me the whole video. And then they showed me the video in the daylight too. And it wasn't flashlights. It was literally the video that was showed to the public was like a small little portion of the screen, not the whole actual screen. And it was a trash truck. It came through. It's why it was slow at the beginning, because it was picking up trash. And then after they picked up trash, when it came back, they were dipping out of the neighborhood.
Interesting. Because, okay, so we've seen that video. We've all seen at least what Nick Barris put out here. Now, and you're trying to explain it a little bit. I hope you can explain a little bit more. When you went and saw it with TBI, the nighttime stuff, the flashlight, the stuff that looked like fireflies, for crying out loud, in the black abyss, was that the full picture, or was that a cropped video?
That was like a 3x5 of a full TV screen.
Really?
Yes.
So okay, so it was a cropped segment, or a cropped section of a very big picture.
I mean, I've seen some people actually sit there and talk about, well, the trash don't run at 3:15 in the morning. You're right. It runs between 5 and 5:30 in the morning.
Right.
But the whole time that I watched this, the time on the DVR that they had stayed 3:11 for like 15 minutes.
Okay. So
broke equipment.
So it was broken. Okay. So it stayed at 3:11 for the whole time. So 3:00 was not the time that these trash guys came in. These garbage men came in and picked up the trash. That was a little bit later on, a little bit earlier in the morning, if that makes any sense. More like 5 or so, right?
Correct.
And of course, again, this was a cropped video from a very, very big video.
Yes.
Okay.
I honestly think somebody did it for clickbait. I mean,
I see. Okay. So then,
he wanted people to log in to follow. And
Right.
if he's watching this now, he knows why I'm not answering his phone calls.
Oh, I see. No, I get that.
You know, I mean, how frustrating is that? You know, so they show the whole video to Seth in the light and in the dark. They tell him it's a trash truck, and they show him that it goes in and out of the neighborhood. I think they took advantage of the fact, in my opinion, that there was the time was stuck on the DVR on the video, right? I just believe that to be true. The video that Nick Barris put out was a cropped version. So, you know, like Seth said, if you think of an entire TV screen, right? And then a 3.5 by 5, you know, card of that, right? 3 by 5 card of that was basically what it was cropped down to and zoomed in on, right? But the trash runs between 5 and 5:30, but the time was stuck on 3:11 a.m. So they could have showed him anything, any type of footage from any time frame, and they could have told him what time it was, right? So again, just really shady, really, 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 really shady, in my opinion. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. And welcome in, everyone. I'm sorry we have so many clips to get through tonight. Hindsight says Seth was not vulnerable. That was a terrible choice of words. He has maintained more strength than most could, in my opinion. Absolutely. Seth's strong as hell. Because I would be, you know, in jail, or at the very least annoying the shit out of the police left and right. They'd be like, oh God, here she comes again. They'd hide. They'd probably, you know, shut it down for lunch or something if they saw me coming. Maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're like, nope, we down for maintenance, something. They come up with something. Hey, Town Chat Cafe. You know, I mean, so no way. No, I think that was a very poor choice of words. Absolutely, hindsight. Absolutely. Rosebud says it wasn't really important for her to bring up Seth and how he is dealing with Sebastian missing, I find her to be very condescending. Yeah, I thought that statement was very off. Very off. Absolutely. So let's go ahead and, oh, I see a comment. Let's see. Retha says, Lady Freedom, you should have 1,300 in here at least. Thank you for great coverage. Thank you, Retha. Thank you. Well, hey, if we were doing like a hardcore drama, we would get a lot of people. I think that's pretty much how how it goes, how you get climbing in the numbers. But I love having you guys here. You guys are awesome. Because you want to know the truth. You want to get down to the bottom of things, and that's so important. So thanks, Retha. Megan L says, I don't think she should share her opinion on what she thinks Seth is or isn't. I mean, if we're sharing opinions, I think she sounds like she got her diploma from a Cracker Jack box. Well, I mean, I have to agree. I mean, there were so many things that she was saying that was wrong, calling people the wrong names and saying the wrong date. She said that this happened on a different date. She said it was like March 28th. Well, turns out it was the 29th. And so I'm looking for the 28th. And, you know, I mean, and not showing any of, you know, backing any of it up either, you know, female SF Holly, you know, it's cuckoo nuts. It's cuckoo nutso. Total cuckoo nutso. And like, crackpot. Oh boy. C. Taylor says LE in other cases she's covering has been under FBI investigation, and now on how they handled that case. One LE that JC supports has already been fired as a result. JC knows that and is still saying this about LE. I mean, absolutely, C. Taylor. Those are great points. And, you know, you can't just backtrack all of this stuff, you know? Show Poodle says Pinchot is not affiliated with Mob Crew. He is in the hate channel chats. And I saw his name in one of the clips on a clip channel post. Show Poodles. Yeah, I mean, he did a really good job, you know? He just really did. He did a great job. You know, and I didn't know he hung out with the hate channels, but you know, that's all right. Sammy says we would have heard him if he went out his window, and he told that Ashley girl, we know he was in these clothes because that's what we saw him go to bed in. Right, but he wasn't home. But he was at home, you know. Hey, Astrology for Mystics with Jen, good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right, guys, let's go ahead into this next one. We're just going to kind of play Pascal through a little here.
But okay, then tell me this.
It is false information and something that's going on trying to find my son.
I can understand getting upset about that, for sure. I definitely can. But there is actual movement in that area. If he didn't know, I could see that. But, you know, I could see a little mistake happening there. But as far as the rest of the image, right? Because it was only cropped with a bunch of, you know, with those 2 white dots floating around for 2 seconds, right? What does the rest of the picture that you saw look like? Is it just pitch black, or was there movement elsewhere?
It's dark because it's at night, but you can make out the road. So it's like, whoever shared it with Nick and Nick put it out, you could see the whole road. There was nothing there. There was no cars on that road. There was no movement on the road except for the trash truck. That was it.
Gotcha. Okay. But you also saw footage from during the day as well, right? You just said that. It was nighttime and day.
Yeah, because what they wanted to do is they showed me the footage for the night, and then they turned it on and they took from the same camera video footage from the day and showed me where the markings and everything were, so that I had no doubt in my mind.
Gotcha.
Because some of those lights actually stay stationary.
Mm-hmm.
They're on throughout the night and throughout the day. And they literally showed me where it was. And I've been in the neighborhood. I even knew what house it was. As soon as I saw it, I recognized the house. So I knew the angle. Because the angle's coming from at the end of the street. It's not pointing at like a common section. It's just literally at the end of the street so that the owner can watch all their vehicles.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. And for everyone who's watching the show, just tuning in just right now, this is the biological father of Sebastian Rogers. Just so you guys know, he has boots on the ground in Hendersonville, doing everything he can to find his son. He has been missing for the past month now. It's, I'm sure, extremely daunting. As you can tell, Seth, I mean, I can't wait for you to have an actual good night's rest. I know that won't happen until you find Sebastian, but still, I know that you're doing a lot of work to try to bring your son home.
I feel better today. I've been to church 3 times. I've done mass. I'll be at church again tomorrow for Holy Saturday, and then it's Easter Sunday. And I'm just praying for a miracle. So
now you went there, you checked out this video, the full scope of this video. What we saw as regular people, okay, the people that are very passionate and really caring and that care about finding Sebastian, the footage that we saw was a cropped video up in the top right-hand corner of this very big, a much bigger picture.
Yes, sir.
You saw day and night. What else was being said or talked about or shown to you with TBI?
I had requested video proof that my son was alive after I spoke to him on Thursday.
What footage was that?
They showed me footage of him leaving Texas Roadhouse and getting into his mama's vehicle with her.
Texas Roadhouse. So he was getting in a vehicle with Katie Proudfoot from eating at Texas Roadhouse, correct?
Yes.
Was Chris Proudfoot there in the footage?
No. Chris was in Memphis.
Okay, so Chris was definitely in Memphis. Okay. But when you saw them leaving, were they with anybody? Were they alone? Just the two of them going into this car?
Yeah.
Okay. Quick question. Did you see any footage from inside Texas Roadhouse? No.
Okay. They just, I wanted proof of life on Sunday to make myself feel better. You guys want to know why I was smiling? That's because yesterday I got to see my son. I mean, it's not current. It's not up to date.
Mm-hmm.
But it gives me a little bit better of a feeling that I got to see him.
No doubt. No doubt. And I can only imagine. So when you saw him walking out of Texas Roadhouse with Katie Proudfoot, his biological mother, was he wearing the same clothes that they're describing that he was last seen in? Okay. Okay. After seeing that footage, I know it made you happy to see him. Of course, you miss your son. I don't know. Was there any interaction, any exchange with Katie, between you and Katie, after seeing this footage?
No.
When was the last time you spoke with Katie before TBI? Before the TBI meeting?
It's been a couple weeks.
It's been a couple weeks. Wow. Have you seen them, Chris and Katie Proudfoot, boots on the ground, searching along with you at all? Even at the beginning when you came into town, when you first came into town?
Chris went with me for one night to go check out some leads that were coming off of Facebook, but they were 3 days old, I think. And after that, no. They say that they're doing it. They say they're out there handing out flyers, putting out signs, getting billboards up, things of that sort. But they're not where I'm at.
Gotcha.
Okay, so Chris went out searching with Seth for one night to follow up on some leads. Hey, Mama, good to see you. Born a Honey says, in my opinion, not trash truck in the flashlight video. I agree, Born a Honey. I agree. Yeah, 3:11 a.m. Yeah, Jen. So, hindsight says, in my opinion, they showed what they wanted to show for him to believe what they wanted him to believe. Absolutely, hindsight. And I wrote that down. Seth describes it as being dark in the video, but you can make out the road. He also says that they took the time to show him the videos, right, in the daytime in the light. So they really took a lot of time to convince Seth of what they were trying to show him was in the video, rather than just showing the video for him to see for himself, in my opinion. Seth said that he automatically recognized the angle of the camera and the house that it was coming from in the neighborhood. He also said that he saw the day and night versions, right? He says that Chris was, in fact, in Memphis, in his opinion, and from what he knew at that point in time. Poppy, I'm not sure. It seems to me that they showed him the full version instead of the cropped in version, right? But it sounds like they were showing him what they wanted him to see only. But Poppy says they showed Seth the one with the trash truck, but not the lights in the backyard. I mean, it really does sound to me like they were trying to pass the trash truck off as the activity in the neighborhood with the 3 a.m. flashlights. Yes, it does appear to me that that's what was happening. Cinderella says it would be I would be so mad if my trash truck came at 5:30 a.m. That's quite early. It really is. Clock was broken, of course. Holly, yes. Yeah. Yep. Raytha Bell. Yep. That was over a year. This was over a year ago. Things changed. Yes, absolutely. Show poodles. Very strange, says Kiki. Hey, SI officer. Sammy says it makes sense to me that something happened. Someone took something to the car drove away. Every other single thing those people have done since then has been suspicious. Absolutely. I agree, Sammy. I agree. We need more leakage for sure, Blast. He's not answering Nick Barris's phone calls, according to him, because he was upset and he thought it was just all clickbait, especially since the police were trying to convince him that it was, trash truck instead of flashlights. And of course, when Pascal asks, what were you doing? Also, what other updates or videos were you shown? Seth talks about the Texas Roadhouse footage, right? But he says it's only them going out to the car. He didn't see any inside footage, right? So they're just not showing him anything that's of any kind of value. But he was just so excited to see his son, that his son did make it out to the car of the Texas Roadhouse and got to see him, that he just took their word for it, and they might have been banking on that. Let's be honest. They deal with people all the time, and so they see this kind of social norms and kind of what transpires if A happens and B happens, right? Astrology for Mystics with Jen says, in my opinion, Katie made sure she said Sebastian left with a flashlight. Then a flashlight video was exposed via Nick Barris, who then went and backtracked. Absolutely. That's a great point. I mean, we didn't hear anything about the flashlights, about him taking a flashlight when she spoke with Holly Thompson. But the night before, when they were on Duchess for the Missing, they did mention the flashlight. So the flashlight was the thing to begin with. And they had this footage early on, Jen. So I agree. Absolutely. Yes, they do. Hindsight. Sebastian and Seth deserve so much more than this mess. And it is. It's like untangling a big ball of yarn. Seth is strong for Sebastian. Cinderella, I agree. Hey, Sasha. Oh, no, you didn't get alerted. Oh, my goodness. Rosebud says, but remember the video was hard to read, and NB had the whole visual of it wrong at first. He did. He did have, that's a great point, Rosebud. So he had it more towards the other end of the street, right? Not coming from the house full on, right? He had it more pointing towards the common area, where there's another common area that would be picked up on that corner house where the actual video came from. That's such a great point, Rosebud. Thank you for that. Thank you, SI officer. Thank you for praying for little Lily. She's doing good with the chemo. I will say that, knock on wood. So I believe today was the 5th one. They're doing 10, um, 10 rounds and then a break in 10 more. But yeah, my family's just, it's just hard to, when somebody has cancer, you just feel kind of helpless. Like you can't do, there's nothing you can do besides cheer them on. Especially when it's a little person. Little Miss Sharon says, we love being here too. Lady Freedom, mullet card. Thanks, Little Miss Sharon. That's so sweet. The first thing they teach you in law school is that you can commit a crime by act or omission. You can lie if an act, or you can lie if you act or you omit, I think is what you're trying to say, Sammy, and you can obstruct justice by acting or omission. Right, exactly. That is such a great point, and I appreciate you saying that because, I'm thinking of it more of like what I was taught, growing up Catholic. It's like even if, but that's interesting. The first thing they teach you in law school is that you can commit a crime by act or omission, and then you're also, you could obstruct justice in the same way. Thanks, Sammy. That's really important to remember, Thank you, Retha Bell. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Hi, Kai Kai. Good to see you. She says she's lying. Meg says, I'll be honest, if anyone shares Sebastian's name in a good light, even if I don't like them, I'll support them. But JC has always sounded ditzy to me. Yeah, well, and Meg, I'm like, that's kind of how I felt. I was like, hey, she's, supporting Sebastian. And also, she does have the expertise and and the skill set and the experience and everything. So I'm like, yeah, sure. I would rather take, say her analysis over somebody like me. No offense to myself. But, I don't have that experience level, right? It's just... Couponing says, I have a question. What if LE, or was it LE that told Seth that it was a trash truck? Yes, ma'am. According to what Seth is saying, yes. Yeah. Kind of puts things into perspective. And I don't think it's in the way that she wanted us to wanted to put them into perspective. Unfortunately, I that's not lost on me, but we do have to show this, and she did want us to reference this, so I'm coming up with a completely different point of view. Rosebud says, remember the ruckus video attempt? Once the actual area was verified, we all saw those lights, especially the ones that goes back to the house. Absolutely, Rosebud. Yeah, because I was originally thinking that the stationary lights that you see in the video belong to the Proudfoot garage lights, and it wasn't. It wasn't that. They were coming from the other angle, right? The neighbor's house is next door. So that's a great point. Funchewski says, yes, LE told Seth that it was a trash truck in the neighborhood, no less. Absolutely did, Funchewski. And, again, they're showing him these different versions. They're convincing him that it was. They're convincing him, in my opinion. Yeah, and their boat seat Taylor, exactly. Rosebud says, what I think in the interview is Seth actually saw the video with the trash truck. I don't think he saw the flashlight video, and that isn't what they showed him. I agree with that, Rosebud. I think you're right, because the timestamp was stuck, so they were able to show him a different video, and it still said 3:11 a.m., right? And they took advantage of that, because they could have showed him any piece of that video and said, oh, see, nothing to see here. Or, oh, look, it's just a trash truck coming through the neighborhood. And I agree with you, Rosebud, because even Seth recounts what he saw. And he's like, it was definitely a trash truck. It went in, it did what it needed to do, and it went, out of the neighborhood quickly. Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Thank you. It breaks my heart, Trishy. It does. It does. Like, I did not want to report on that, Hey, couponing. Yeah, I mean, Megan else has a great point here too. Seth has no reason to trust LE when they're telling him it's a trash truck. I mean, I'd be PO'd. Like, I would be so mad. Again, they would see me coming and they'd be like, here she comes. Oh, God. You know, it'd be like doom and gloom. You know, all rolling their eyes at me. Hey, Vanna. If you want to find Sebastian, go to church. Meg, I mean, absolutely. Hey, Napanat. All right, guys, let's watch these next two with Pascal and get through kind of the Pascal part, because I have two more little clips here. Yeah, two. Yes, I do too.
Which, I mean, I kind of, you know, if you got more than one person doing it, it would be, in the grand scheme of things, it would make sense to split up to conquer the area.
Right. It would, wouldn't it?
It would.
So let me ask you. Let's talk about the search that you had with Chris. What was that like? How was the interaction? How was the search with him? Was it awkward?
No, it wasn't. It was not awkward. I was the passenger side. I was the passenger in the truck, and he was driving around. He's familiar with the area a lot more than I am. So he knew from the Facebook tip where to go. And so I just jumped in the truck with him.
Okay. Gotcha. And then that's it. You guys did a search and no strange, no odd interaction. He didn't say anything that would have made, I don't know, spark any kind of red flags or anything of that sort.
No.
Okay. I see. So my question is too, just going back to the TBI meeting, the most recent one you had, aside from those videos, was there any new leads or anything that they told you?
They're not going to tell me. It's an active investigation. They're not going to tell me.
Are you satisfied with their investigation thus far?
That's asking me that question is like asking me if I like the hamburger that I see you cooking. I haven't seen the finished result yet. Finished result is me getting my son back. The sooner we do that, the sooner I'll tell you how happy I am.
Gotcha. I see.
If that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. That does. Your conversation, have you seen Chris when you saw Katie Proudfoot? Did you see Chris?
No.
Okay, so he wasn't there at all.
He wasn't there physically. No.
Gotcha. Okay. Are you looking into any private investigators or lawyers at all?
Investigators? I've got 4 of them.
Oh, you got 4. Right on.
I'm not playing.
Gotcha. I see.
That's where I get a lot of my leads from.
Gotcha. Seeing any footage or anything of that sort, has that moved you to make any movements as of late? None?
Nope. I've gotten some tips. United Cajun Navy was here. They left. They were getting the death threats.
Yes, I do want to talk to you about that as well. So I want to bring that up real quick because I'm a little confused, to be honest. But they are, I'm just pulling this up really, really quick. Cajun Navy is calling off searching for Sebastian. What's up with that, Seth?
Okay, guys, so here's where we see that there were more threats that Seth was speaking of with Pascal. I also wanted to mention before we watch this next clip that he said that Katie and himself did not have any type of exchange while they were in the TBI meeting. He also states that Chris was not in attendance, but he also alludes that he wasn't present, but he was probably on the phone or texting Katie or in some capacity involved in the meeting. And Pascal said, well, how long ago before that did you talk to Katie? And he said a couple of weeks, right? And I also wanted to pinpoint to or point out that when Pascal asked about the clothes that Sebastian was wearing, Seth said that he was not wearing the clothes that were described. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out here before we watch this next clip.
Why is that happening? Why did that happen? What's up with that?
I mean, they're helping search to find my son, and people are threatening them, trying to run them over with a truck, throwing stuff at them. I mean, these people are trying to help me find my son. And this is the kind of welcome they got to Tennessee. The state of volunteers. And these people came to volunteer to help. Not everybody's perfect. That's why I told everybody you need to drop your egos and understand that Sebastian is the focus of this. The end goal is to find Sebastian alive and well.
Mm-hmm.
And some people decide to let their egos get in the way.
Gotcha. And so because of that, and of course they were getting threats, allegedly, that's why they're gone. Are they coming back at all? Did they just take a day off? What's the story here?
They called me this morning, and they said that because of the death threats that they have to pull back, because not only are they getting threats, but their family members are getting threats.
Oh, come on.
I cannot be liable for somebody. I'm trying to find my son.
No doubt.
And the last thing I want is somebody, I cannot on my conscience have somebody having their family getting threatened because they're trying to help me find my son. I mean, I've already told my volunteers, be careful, stay in groups, at 5 o'clock. I know we still got a couple hours of daylight left, but I want my volunteers to be safe too. So I've told them at 5 o'clock, I need you all to go ahead and call it quits for the night. You may not want to, but your life is precious as well. My son's life is precious, but I'm not willing to risk other people's lives for my son's life.
Gotcha.
Mine on the other hand, I ain't worried.
Repeat that again. I'm sorry. Say that last thing.
Said mine on the other hand, I'm not worried. I'll be your Huckleberry.
I heard that. And yeah, I it is frustrating and tragic that they, that's frustrating and tragic that they left. I got to be honest.
Oh, sorry, guys. Okay, so, and that was all I had there. I just wanted to kind of show again, that timeline of events, where they're going out and all they're doing is spreading awareness about Sebastian, searching for Sebastian, and they're getting followed. Seth was reporting this to the TBI, sent them some license plate numbers, and nothing came of it. And then even when Eric Craddock was asked on April 2nd, 2024, whether the United Cajun Navy was getting death threats, he said that they weren't and that none of them were reported to him. Weird. Hello, Grisham. How are you? And Sammy says there were 18-ish cameras in the neighborhood. The one with the 2 flashlights was down on the corner, and there was also a video from directly behind their house. Yes, the Carr residence, right? Yeah, exactly, Sammy. And that is wild, Vanna. I did not know what was going on in the Karen Reed stuff. Vanna says Coffendorfer has been paying the worst trolls who are supporting the corrupt police department and politicians / judge. She's pure evil. Wow, no kidding, Vanna. I didn't know that. Hey, Marshmallow Moo, how are you? Marshmallow Moo says, who validates that they were from the night? The sourcing I find says 2 weeks later, a neighbor came from a vacation to find them. Who validates the neighbor? That's a good question, Marshmallow Moo. That's a great question. And they also had to kind of convert it over, right? Because they're to like the DVR, because the video timestamp was stuck. And C. Taylor says, and that CP wasn't there physically. Yeah. But he was there probably over the phone, trying to call the shots. And Vanna says the ring videos can probably be seen on Aiden Carney, Flipperhead. There are numerous Karen Reed supporters who have the videos of her. Wow, okay. Wow, the ring videos, huh? Wow. Interesting. Sammy says, Marshmallow, okay, I see what you're saying, and I think we don't get to verify anything, only the people who may receive something directly from a neighbor or source that they believe or trust. Yeah, and or trust. Yeah, that's a great point, Sammy. It's so much of a circus everywhere, SI officer. It's nuts. It's absolutely bananas. It's just absolutely bananas. Like I said, I had a completely different show planned for tonight, but I thought it was really important to track down these videos since in different interviews, so we can look at them and say, no, that is not correct. Something here is super fishy, in my opinion. Something is not right. I do not like it, and I don't like that it's being put out there as if it's truth, especially by a reliable source, as I find to be a reliable source. I said, oh boy, we need to talk about this. Here's more from Jacob, because I want to make sure we can get through these.
It made sense to him back in March of 2024. Law enforcement explained it in great detail to Katie and Seth. So what's my point with all of this? Now talking about the light video. I don't think they're lying to us. And I think the biggest problem with analyzing so much of this is we don't have that original video. And I'm worried that what we are looking at and what we are trying to decipher is not the full picture. It's not long enough. It's not clear enough. It's too distorted. And again, treating this case like a cold case file and looking back from the beginning again, looking back at all the dogs that had negative hits, looking back at everything that was negative in terms of search and rescue. All of that leads me to the conclusion that law enforcement doesn't know what happened at all right now, it would seem. At least, I'm going to change that. They don't know the details enough to either make a case and bring it to a prosecutor or to make a challenge to us in the public to give us clues so we can help them. In other words, last seen here, last seen there, sighting here, information about him here. We have none of that. And when you look at all of that, it explains why they are cold. But I don't think it means law enforcement has quit. I don't think it means that they, like all of us, and more so, I will say, care and are trying their damnedest. I know I'm not a cusser, to find Sebastian Rogers. I also can tell you this, that on the dog and at night and all of that, I know they are getting clues called into them. Reports are being called in, probably because the amount they're offering now is $500,000 with everything combined. And that's good. Nothing has panned out that I know about, nothing. But I get updates as to what it varies. I'm very limited. I want the updates in terms of what comes in that is then disseminated to the FBI or Sumner County TBI, to law enforcement. So that's my filter, right? A lot might be pouring into them, but for me, I'm just looking at particular leads or clues that are called in and that are then parsed over to the FBI for their consideration, or law enforcement. And I've looked at a lot of those. There are hints and clues and things coming in. Have they led anywhere? Certainly not that law enforcement is telling us is viable. I can tell you on all of them, except for one that came in about a week ago, they've been dismissed. Literally, law enforcement has gone to locations to check out different sightings that haven't panned out. But at least some people are aware that there's an autistic young man in his mid-teens that's missing. And there's calls coming in. And when people see someone that they think could match that description, it's being disseminated to, I believe, both law enforcement and to DOG's 1-800 number. He's a high profile guy. Some people, I've talked about it before. It's just facts, whether you like it or not. Some people do not want to deal with law enforcement for a multitude of reasons, but they have no problem dealing with a private entity and certainly with dealing with DOG. They don't feel any harm is going to come their way. And so I wanted to make it clear that I think information does continue to come in. I think that law enforcement is really working hard with what they have to either work on making a case or working on finding out what happened to Sebastian. I also recently have been looking at what other people in law enforcement, including my former FBI partner, reminding myself that this is an autistic child.
Okay, guys, so she brings up the partner again. This is, I think, the third time that she brings up the partner. Bless says it shouldn't be cold. Question the initial investigation. The evidence is there. I agree, Blessed. Really well said. Thank you. Absolutely. Rosebud says, I want to say how proud I am of all of us in this chat, keeping it on topic, not bullying or being mean. Having a real adult convo between folks who really care about this young man. Thanks, Rosebud. Absolutely. You guys are always so smart, and you do stick to the facts and just trying to kind of find out what's going on. And I really appreciate that too. Really well said. Thank you, Rosebud. Megan says, I just found one of her creeping on someone's property taking pictures. What? With the Pink Panther tune? Oh my goodness. Oh man, look out. But in this clip we see Jake Hoff was going off of what Seth said way back in March, right? And it's because LE lied, in my opinion. So she's going off of what is being said by law enforcement. And so he was trying to trust and believe in the process, in law enforcement, all of that, right? And in that regard, I would be very vulnerable as well, because I would want to believe law enforcement. We all do. Those are the people that we go to and we trust when we need help, right? But when they're not doing it, or when they're showing you completely false information and convincing you otherwise, of course you're going to maybe fall for that sort of thing. LE didn't quit, and they're trying their damnedest to find Sebastian Rogers, is what Jen says. And I don't know if I'm convinced with that. She also goes into that DOG is getting clues and tips called in because of the $500,000 reward that's been offered up. And then also, I do agree with what she's saying there. Many people don't want to talk to law enforcement, but they wouldn't mind talking to someone else to give out information, or an anonymous tip line or something like that. But there is a taboo when it comes to talking to law enforcement. And again, a lot of people don't trust law enforcement. There may be a reason why we don't trust law enforcement. I know that I have to stay in reality and be a logical thinking person. So of course, there are many, many out there that are very highly dedicated, that just want the truth and answers as badly as us. They're working their tails off nonstop. But we also know that this is a job for somebody, right? We're all human. So you clock in, you clock out, and you leave it at work. Some people are good at compartmentalizing things. But she says they're working to make a case on what happened to Sebastian. And I think, that ship has kind of sailed a little bit, and I think we need fresh eyes on it. I really do. Meg says she just said that they're getting clues called into them. She sounds so unprofessional. Tips, JC. It's not clues. It's tips or leads. Good point, Meg. You know, I mean, and that's the thing. It was just very weird how impromptu it really was, you know? SI officer says, "Why I absolutely hope so, because we're all becoming very impatient." Absolutely, SI officer. And I feel that, you know, kind of in the air, in the videos I'm seeing being put out, in the content that's out there, people in the comments section, in the chat, people just saying, you know, what is going on? What is LE doing? And how come the FBI can't step in? You know, we're getting restless. And they know that as well. They do. They definitely know that. And we're all feeling that impatience and frustration. Yeah, Sammy says, by no effort of the people he lived with, in my opinion. Absolutely. Where were they at? And even Seth said, they're not searching with me, you know? Meg says she just said that they were getting, oh, sorry. I was looking for, did Ann say something up here that I missed? Oh, Lady Freedom, did you hear what was said about TL saying that Sebastian will show up when he's 18? Oh, no, I did not hear that. Oh, boy. When did she say that, Mass? I thought, well, I'm not going to say what I thought. Marshmallow Moo says, Kiki, in my opinion, tips go to At Night. They decide what goes to LE. Some go to her. I hope only real trusted LE or former is hidden screen tips. Too much stink fee everywhere in this case. Payoffs all over it. Amen, Marshmallow Moo. I agree. Can't be trusted. The Karen Reed people have nailed JC to the walls numerous times, Mana said. I paid more attention to the first Karen Reed trial than I have the second one, but I think there's a lot more information that's come out, you know, to be fair. So Tammy Carr says Mob Crew has a few good sources in the neighborhood. He sure does. He surely does. He's a super smart guy. We like him over here. I think the way that he explains the Lights video makes complete and total sense to me. I cannot find an error or a hole in his logic or his research, you know, and we've gone over what he believes happened with the Lights video, and I think it's pretty on target. And if you want us to believe that law enforcement can't do better than Mob, respectfully Mob, right? Or Chris, excuse me, or Pincho Paxton for that matter, if you think that they have bigger hold on technology, or you know, they have more access to technology than, you know, people in the Secret Service, even TBI level, FBI, that's crazy. I will never believe that, you know. I just never will. When somebody tells me that, I'm like, yeah, right. There's no way one of us has more technology than the people that do this for a living. It's ridiculous. And C. Taylor says, but JC knows that, or knows this info. Seth's info has changed. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, C. Taylor. Marshmallow Moose says Ann Reynolds, that gives time for the passports and escapes. I don't believe that produce the proof. I don't believe that produce the proof. He is okay, and what I say to the stink feets show that proof Edgar. Marshmallow Moo. Meg says she thinks she's playing a board game. Meg. My goodness. Sammy says, well, that's interesting. Could I, because I could have sworn that NB, so they aren't even getting tips anymore. 1,000,000% of the evidence is there. Why do they keep telling us that there's absolutely nothing when there is so much? I agree. That is maddening to me too. Exactly. exactly, Sammy. Sammy says, I feel they're trying to just prepare us for the later, whether they're going to come out and say, yep, see nothing, we reached this point and it's cold, all is done now. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't understand, or that they've done all they can. And I don't understand why they won't hand it over to the FBI completely. I really don't. No, and people don't like trusting them, you know? Kiki says, I'm really confused on chain of command, honestly. Do they limit Seth on what they show him? I think he was just telling them, I want a proof of life video, and so they took the opportunity to debunk the flashlights as well, I guess. Because that was the original aim of the meeting, according to Seth, you know, according to what we've seen there. Jen the Shell. Oh my goodness, Rosebud. Yes, they were creeping out of her Subaru or whatever. The electric mom car is hilarious. Sammy. SI officer says, we just need a recent update. Something, it's just crickets and it's frustrating and it's been so long. I agree. And it just fuels speculation, right? And I just don't see why they can't come out and just give us, you know, a concrete timeline of events. It wouldn't even really take but 20 minutes to really go through all of it and just say, you know, some of their findings or whatever, but they refuse to do it, you know? Oh, sorry, let's see here. Hindsight says Sumner County is the lead, Kiki. In my opinion, they limit whoever and whatever they choose to, in my opinion. Yeah, I would have to agree there. Absolutely. Really well said. They have jurisdiction. They do not have to answer to anyone. And, you know, whatever they want to do, so be it. Oh, good. I'm glad you're back, Lori. And Tammy says, love Chris, and he's good at what he does. I do too, from Mob. Yes, he's awesome. Vic says Mob Crew worked so hard on this case. In my opinion, it's like a slap in the face for him. For shame. Yeah, I agree, Vic. I didn't like hearing that either. That was really upsetting, especially because, you know, she was kind of championing his work, and I think he deserves to be championed for his work. C. Taylor says Mob Crew is awesome. He truly cares about the missing, in my opinion. He does, and he's been on physical searches too. But he just uses that talent that he has. Not everybody has that talent, right? Not everybody can convey that and put that into a time frame and then be smart enough to really realize when these lights are going off and what's causing them to do it. Very in-depth, and a lot of work went into it, you know, a lot. You know, so I don't see why they're discrediting anything like that. And again, that was just my big thing. I'm like, why? You know, that was my whole thing. I'm just like, why? And I mean, I have some ideas. It's, like I said, it's more rhetorical than anything. But again, why? You know, so let's look at this next one, and because I have 2 more clips.
Specifically, reminded that autistic people, or people with autism, they're not autistic people with autism, they have an extremely strong will. There's been cases where they will go miles and miles and miles until the point of exhaustion. There have been cases, I talk about it a lot. Connor Jack Oswald disappeared for almost 3 years, living homeless. He disappeared at about 17. He's only a year and a half older than Sebastian or so, and was found hundreds of miles away. Nobody even knows that we got there, what his journey was for 2.5 years to this day. That is my understanding. And there's several others. Another autistic, a child with autism that was found in a Walmart bathroom. Another autistic young man who was at a job working, left everything behind, and was found pretty far away. This was outside of Phoenix, as I recall, in the foothills, deceased. Had gone all that way no signs of foul play. They had some video actually on that one, and it just showed him walking. So I have hope. And law enforcement, and I had these clips lined up, has made it clear to this day, they are saying they're not ruling anything out. You know, they're keeping that door open, but they don't have particular information that shows foul play. Now, I've always said, and I'm going to continue saying, this is a foul play situation, and most likely because he still hasn't been seen and he's gone. Am I saying Chris and Katie Proudfoot? No, I don't know that. What I am saying is someone. He just could not be gone for this period of time without being abducted or otherwise hurt by someone. I don't think he wandered away and went miles, and with the huge presence that was involved in the search for him, went undetected. But I still keep that as about a 1% possibility. I really have to keep it as a 1% possibility because of another case I had where everything was searched. But this one, you know, we solved it within 48 hours and found him deceased in a pond. But my point is that that's a 1%. Could he have been taken, kind of like a Connor Jack Oswald, and worked his way around and continued somehow, on his own? Remember, we have a situation with a child who was not treated well. And I don't know what's happening in Chad. I'll put my glasses on in a minute, but I have no problem saying that because of what I know. And I think he was treated pretty rough, especially for someone on the spectrum. And so could he have just wanted to never come home? And could he be making his way across the country like Connor Jack Oswald did? It's something we have to consider. But I just wanted to point out that I believe law enforcement is on it. I believe they are doing everything in their power to either solve where his whereabouts are or to put a case together against those they might believe are responsible. Again, that lights video, working it from a cold case vantage, which I'm going to continue to do. I don't think law enforcement lied. And Craddock said, point blank, that video wasn't important. And he told Katie and Seth in specificity. Please go back and watch that Pascal from March 29th, because we all kind of forget. It's been over a year now. We all kind of forget the facts, and that's why you have to go back and relook and dig. I'm just doubting that that is as significant as we thought.
Okay, so, first Jen brings up the autism factor, right? That people who are on the autism spectrum can really get on to something and be overstimulated, and it can cause them to be able to go further, like miles and miles away, maybe somebody else wouldn't, to the point of exhaustion without really realizing it, right? Because we've heard of other stories where other individuals who are on the spectrum had this experience. But again, I can't get on board with that, knowing what I know about Sebastian without knowing him personally or ever having met him. Sebastian was definitely abused. No doubt in my mind, absolutely had every reason under the sun to walk out of that house and never turn back. There's no doubt about that in my mind. But where is the evidence, Jen, that this happened? Because I refuse to consider that at this juncture, where we are in the case right now, I refuse to entertain that without any evidence whatsoever that could be a possibility. Because there just isn't any. There just simply isn't any. Someone went back to the house in the lights video. We know that for sure. We could see that in the lights video. The light source came from the same area and it went back to that same area. Right? So Jen says, again, with the lights video, she is now looking at the lights video from a cold case vantage point. And she believes that LE didn't lie. She maintains that law enforcement did not lie about the 3 a.m. flashlight video. She also says that Craddock stated that it was of no importance. And again, I would have to beg to differ. But let's see what you guys think. Vic says I'm overstimulated over her mouth and the lights. Vic, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Let's see. I thought I saw hindsight. Thanks for the green hearts, Lori. Oh, I didn't mean to drop that link. Hindsight says we continue to work together toward anything we find that will help lead us to this child. This is not a cold case. Amen. Amen, Hindsight. So well said. That's all I could keep thinking of, you know, and I did get emotional when she talked the way that when she started talking like this, I got emotional. I can't lie. And that's the same thing that just kept going in my mind. I will never give up. I will never treat this like a cold case. Not that I will never look at it from that vantage point. It's inevitable if it's not going to be solved right anytime soon. That is, but I still feel like it's way too fresh. There's still way too much attention and focus and people who really, really care and who really want to find Sebastian. And I agree with what you said, Hindsight. And I know there's people like you who will continue. I know that there's people that will make sure that his case does not go cold, and especially not right now. You know, I'm confident in saying that at this juncture. And again, I'm not going to entertain any crap when it comes to no evidence. Now, if you want to show me a picture of Sebastian walking down his street or whatever that night, then I'll say, oh yeah, okay, maybe he did leave on his own. He had tons of reasons to leave on his own, right? He was being abused. He didn't want to live there anymore. Maybe he was headed over to Seth's house. You know, oh wow, that would just open up a whole, you know, many other doors that maybe we weren't considering. But I refuse to consider that without any footage of him leaving or around the neighborhood or, you know, on CCTV footage anywhere ever, you know. An eyewitness spotted him on the road, something, you know, and caught a picture, snapped a picture, you know. I mean, that it would take something like that. Hey, Paula McCobb. Paula McCobb says, I don't believe that about Sebastian, what she is saying. I don't believe it either, Paula. Thanks for being here. No, I call BS on the whole thing. Kiki says, she said she was doing a video once a month. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting it. As she said in the beginning, it was an impromptu sort of thing. Rosebud says this broad shouldn't be talking about autism. She is not educated in that regard, in my opinion. She is comparing apples to oranges. Yeah, absolutely. I would have to agree. And then also, there's differences on the spectrum, right? So you would really have to be comparing Sebastian to somebody that was much more similar to himself than, you know, one of these cases of a child that just has autism, right? Because it's a spectrum disorder. And so you would have to find where that child is on the spectrum, which is extremely difficult. Let's just be honest. Yeah, exactly. Apples to oranges for sure. Vanna says, SF jumped at me on a post last week. He didn't want Seth to see the video of the boy in Virginia. He got crappy at me, so I clapped back and blocked him. Vanna, way to clap back. That's funny. SF gets feisty, doesn't he? He's still as feisty as ever, I guess. I didn't know what was going on with him lately. Thank you for the update, Vanna. My goodness. SI officer says, oh, that video absolutely 100% is very important and it holds everything. Yeah, it's part of his case file. How could she say that it's not important when it's a part of his case file? You know? C. Taylor says, on it just like Canton LEJC. What about the lead investigator who's been fired in that case? You know? I mean, you have to... I think the one thing that I do like about like Grady Judd, a friend of mine and I were talking about Grady Judd earlier. And one thing I like about him is that no matter who you are, I'm quite convinced that if his wife was to you know, do a crime, he would put her picture up and show us, and be like, she's eating peanut butter and jelly in the county jail tonight. You know, he's just that way. He's very fair minded, right? And he doesn't care who you are. You could be his star protege deputy and he'll put you in the county jail. It's quite comical. But in the same regard, that's the people that we need in law enforcement, that they don't look at you like, oh, you know, you're the one whose wife bakes me cookies every Christmas. You know, I love her, you know, macadamia nut cookies. They're great. No, he doesn't look at it like that. He looks at it like, you did a crime. Now you're in trouble. It doesn't matter who you are. And he actually is stricter and more harsh on the people that are supposed to be doing the right thing, right? Great power, great responsibility. His deputies, his sheriffs and things like, or excuse me, he is the sheriff. But, you know, the lower echelon, I don't know all of the ranks, right? But either way, you know, that's why I like him, because he doesn't look at it like, oh, it's who you know and who you know, he looks at it like, hey, this is what needs to happen. You got, you know, you do the crime, you do the time, and it doesn't matter who you are. And I really respect that a lot. And Meg says, hindsight 100, we will keep digging and saying Sebastian, Wayne, Drake, Rogers. That is right. We're not going to stop. And look, if Sebastian was found tomorrow, whatever the outcome would be, we would still get up and talk about what happened, right? If somebody was hiding him, if he was in a school, if, you know, he needs justice. At this point, it's about justice 100%, Meg, in hindsight. So thank you guys so much. I agree. It's all about justice now, because no matter which way we slice it at this juncture, somebody was holding him against his will and away from his mom and dad. You know, at the end of the day, he's not going to be all right, right? He was completely taken out of his environment. And I still can't even really say that, right, with full certainty. Again, because someone came from the house and someone went back to the house, in my opinion, allegedly, according to the lights video. So when we know that, you can't undo that knowledge. It's there. It's part of the framework for theories and everything else. You know, you just can't forget that that's happened. No, I couldn't either, Sammy. That's why I'm always reviewing, like, when he has a new one on the lights, because the way that he explains it is like perfect for everyone, right? He doesn't use these like massive words and, you know, confuse us. He's super smart and, you know, very intelligent guy, but he doesn't like, you know, sugarcoat things, or excuse me, probably not even sugarcoat would be the right word for it, but maybe like trump up the word so he sounds super, you know, intelligent. No, he is like very straightforward, explains it very well for everyone that can understand it, and claim, you know, can clearly see all of it. It's crystal clear. He is the actual crystal clear Chris, and Crispy Chris Proudfoot Stepfoot is just crispy. And Rosebud says, OC Taylor, she doesn't even mention it. I'm overstimulated, Vic. That's funny. Meg says, Vonna, good for you. Don't let that punk intimidate you. And blocking is awesome. Tammy says, we are picking up what you're laying down, JC. Or we are picking up what you're laying down, JC. Rosebud said she ended it quite abruptly. I think it was because she saw the comments in the chat were not in her favor. Yeah, and I mean, again, I don't blame her. I probably would have done the same thing and been like, uh-oh, what did I say? Because sometimes when you get up here, you don't realize it. I'll have to go back and watch sometimes and be like, oh, did I say something? I hope I didn't say something in a different way that I was meaning to. But then I'm my biggest critic, because I'll sit there and be like, no, you're supposed to say it this way. Yelling at the TV, yelling at myself, watching myself. Blah. But, it is different and difficult when you're up here, talking, and especially when you do it quite frequently too, because you might have reactions that are different, maybe that you wouldn't have if you weren't live or something like that. Sammy says, were the flashlights in the backyard where the CPS reports was Connor made to wear diapers? Did his parents? Yeah. Oh, exactly, Sammy. Was Connor made to wear the diapers? Does his parents immediately leave the house? Never search. Stop comparing uncomparable cases. That's the truth. It's the truth. Yeah. And, I just don't think something is right. There's a disturbance in the force. Definitely, because usually Jen has a pretty logical comparison when she gets up there. There's been a lot of times where I've really thought, yeah, that's absolutely true, or that's a really good comparison. But I've never really disagreed more than tonight. I mean, there were just several things that I'm like, you're telling us to watch a video that it seems like you haven't watched. And that's kind of where my mindset was. I'm like, you want us to go watch a video, but I remember watching the live that Seth was on, and he never said it like that, right? And he also wanted proof of life. That was why they met up. It had nothing to do with the TBI wanting to have this big meeting with Seth and Katie. No. That is not how it went down. Absolutely not how it went down. If nothing with the lights, why are they trying to steer us away? In my opinion, Kiki. I always think like that. That is my go-to thinking too. I'm like, why don't they want us to pay attention to the lights all of a sudden? Now all of a sudden it's rubbish. It's, insignificant even. I'm like, Craddock never said that, And I mean, I'm not best buds with Craddock by any means, but he never said that. Hindsight says, in my opinion, knowing anything we can about Yellow Coat is the next step, as he has that phone from KP, in my opinion. I agree, Hindsight. We cannot lose focus on this Yellow Coat guy. There's something so wrong with even his presence in the restaurant, and then coupled with the green hoodie just coming in randomly using the bathroom too. And, there's a lot going on there at the Texas Roadhouse. And I think it's well worth making sure that we continue focusing on it. And also kind of makes me think too that it very much could be something that they didn't show Seth, the inside footage or any of what happened that evening, because they may see what we've seen. They may know more than we know, and things like that, equally as much or more. There could be, maybe they never noticed him on the phone. That could very well be. I'm not saying that we are smarter than law enforcement by any means, but what I'm saying is that sometimes when we can sit here and we're focused on something when they're within a budget and, of course, an 8-hour day or whatever. Jen says they work longer hours, and I believe her when she says that. Detectives and things like that probably do. Investigators, and they want to get the case solved, and they know that there's only so much time, and time is of the essence, if you will. But yeah, I just have to say, I think that there was way more to that video, and that's probably why Seth wasn't shown what was kind of going on, because he might start asking questions like, well, who's that? You know, what's this person doing? And also, let's just be really quite frank, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings here, but when we look at Katie and Sebastian's interaction, I mean, will all the moms just let me know if that seemed like a tense situation in your opinion, between, if you were to put yourself in Katie's seat and then put your child across the seat, you know, just say, for, even if you have more kids, just pick one of your kiddos and say, you know, we were going out for just a one-on-one dinner. It was not normal to me. It was not joyful. It was not heartfelt, sweet, kind. No connection whatsoever, except for, in my opinion, the connection where we see Sebastian being absolutely attentive of his mother. And God, I can't even, I'm going to cry. I mean, he loved his mother. He loved her. He paid attention to what she was doing. He watched her. He looked over her. He looked over his mother, is what I got from Sebastian in that. And again, did he have every reason to leave? Yeah, he had every reason to leave. Every reason. You know, the way she flung that menu over at him, the way she pays no attention to him, that was normal, guys. Normal. That's how it was. It was not like them sitting together conversating, you know, having a good day, giggling, laughing. That was not a good dinner, right? They're not going to show that to Seth. Seth would know in a heartbeat that something was messed up there. Something's not right. You know, he knows more now than he did back then. And at that point, he may have been thinking, why is Katie being so cold to Sebastian? Maybe that would have been a thought, or maybe he would have been witnessing that and thought, oh my God, that's what Sebastian meant when he said that he doesn't think that Mr. Chris and Mom like me very much. Well, his quote was, I don't think Mr. Chris and Mom like me very much. Yeah, anything is possible, hindsight, and I do try to keep an open mind. And even, like I said, even with Jen, I keep an open mind, guys, right? I did not immediately unsub to Jen. I would like more information. I would like to know what's going on. I would like to get to the bottom of it. No lie, you know. Maybe it was just a one-off. Maybe it was something that, you know, again, if I think about a partner in crime, right? But more like a partner in terms of even like the military or, you know, the police partners, right? You're trusting that person with your life, you know, and so, and especially if you establish a relationship and it was a good relationship with that person, I'm going to say that something that they would tell me would probably hold more weight than if it came from somebody that I didn't know, a stranger, or even just another comrade, you know, police officer at work. But my partner who had my back and who saved my life and, you know, whatever, we don't know what they went through, right? Definitely in scary situations. Maybe it made her think and she thought, you know, to the contrary, right? And I mean, I hate to say it like this too, but we're not law enforcement officers, many of us. Some of you are, and thank you for being an officer. But in the same regard, we're not going to look at it like quite like they do, right? We're not going to kind of get it like they do. So I do think of it like that. And then also there's that brotherhood, you know, factor where you back the blue, you know, and things like that. So there could have been some things that she did talk about, because she mentions the partner 3 times. You know, I'm just pointing that out. Meg says, wouldn't the darn dogs have picked up his scent? FBI Jen, Lordy. Meg. I mean, SI officer says it seems like everyone tends to backtrack and scatter on this case. I mean, left and right. And I believe because it goes so deep and the threats. I think that's exactly what it is. I honestly can't really look at it any other way at this point, especially when I go back to find the clip about the lights video. And the first thing I'm hit with is Seth reminding me that, oh yeah, he was telling us about how they were being followed, and then the United Cajun Navy had just pulled out at that time. And I'm like, maybe we need to review the rest of Pascal's live on this, because there's probably a lot more little nuggets in there that we will look at differently from a hindsight perspective. So yeah, I believe it goes much deeper, SI officer and the threats. And I think some of the people were playing both sides from day one. And trust me, I'm working on some things behind the scenes and research on that too. I do not take that lightly, because you cannot be so passionate about a case and do that. It doesn't work that way. There would have to be a big event or something that would change the perspective, right? Something comes out. Oh, okay, so I thought it was this way, but it turns out it's this way. Okay, so now it's going to change my way of thinking. I mean, something there. I'll just leave it at that I agree, and I'm looking more into it. Meg says JC herself said there were 20 highly trained dogs that did pick up shit, and so how did Sebastian leave on his own and not picked up? Yeah, did he have a magic carpet? I mean, absolutely. It's so ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and there's no evidence for us to entertain it. Like, he did not walk out of the house. He just didn't, He just didn't. And who was it? Deception Detective? He even said, like, the improbabilities of this happening, or, that basically there would be, it would be very rare for Sebastian to have, like, walked out of his house and then got picked up and abducted, right? I mean, it's not impossible, but it's improbable. It's very rare that that's going to happen. There would have to be two very, like, coincidental circumstances, right? He just decides to leave, and then there's a predator on the loose, right? You just typically don't see that play out, unless it's a movie or something like that. And it's not that it never does. I mean, there's weirdos everywhere, waiting to pounce. But Marshmallow Moose says, SI officer, it seems to me more evidence according to LE shows he never came home. If they claim all of this, then what about that gas station after they left dinner? Is that a possible swap? Could have been. I just don't know why they would draw any attention to their home, with the 3 a.m. lights, because they would have been home free if they did the swap on the way home. Katie stops at a gas station. That could be explained away on a Life 360. Excuse me, guys. Meg says, ask Craddock said about the lights video, we don't know what we don't know. Yeah, he did say that. And then Nick Barris is like, does it have any evidentiary value at this time? And he's like, no. He's like, he goes, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to. And it is in the case file, I don't think he states that it's in the case file, but he definitely says that it could come into play later. He never called it insignificant. That's a huge jump, right? That's like saying, itty bitty to humongous, right? It's a huge jump. Insignificant means that it has no value whatsoever. He didn't say that. He just said they're not really looking at it as evidence, being a big piece of evidence right now, but it could be. And like you said, because they don't know what they don't know. So they were basically going to sit on whatever footage they had, which is smart to do, right? Let's be honest. If you only have a small amount of evidence or a small amount of clues, you're going to kind of sit on that evidence and say, okay, it might not, do I think it's something, but it could be, nothing. I will tell you in my, the way that I even handled it on the channel, when I was only making videos and not going live, I was just basically treating it like a UFO video. I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what this is. This is weird. Like, to be honest with you, I kind of discounted it. I downloaded it and kept it, and I watched it. I watched the ruckus. When Jay did the ruckus, I watched the ruckus, and trying to decipher it and everything like that. But again, I kind of didn't really think much of it until we kind of realized where the angle was coming from, the field of view of the camera, what was going on, why you can see certain parts of it better than others, how many people were actually involved, right? Then you start thinking about those things and how logistically there would have to have been more people involved than just Katie and Chris, especially if Chris was in Memphis. I love Sheriff Judd Blessed. I do. I think he needs to be like the mentor for everybody and go around training everyone, handing out moon pies and RC. And in hindsight says, Marshmallow, in my opinion, I feel that is what occurred, and I don't think he came home from the Texas Roadhouse. Yeah, see, in hindsight, I can see why you would think that. I mean, it would be kind of a perfect segue and into it. I mean, and I would love to, I want to know if they have any like footage or if the witness took a picture. I don't know why they would, but I would love to see more about that. Did they have cameras? I mean, they usually have them all over the place. I don't know any single place that I can think of off the top of my head that were not all on camera. Especially Walmart. It's like, and then you go in the makeup, aisles, and you're like, you got one like facing you right here, and they're all over because everything's so small. And then, so, I mean, we're always on camera. And like, oh, they do. No, they do. Grady don't play, Tammy says. No, he does not play. SI officer Marshmallow Muse says you're probably right. LE can't have it always to nowhere. But if they say that this is then they have to explain that, and it seems cover up and potentially occurring, not good, whatever is happening. Yeah, and it isn't. It isn't good because it's one thing to keep everything close to the vest, but it's another thing not to reassure the public of anything, right? And then we still have the issue where Seth is not been cleared and neither have the Proud Feet, right? So that's still up in the air, and that hinders different organizations working with people, because even as Doug Bishop said when we reviewed the live a couple of maybe it was now a week ago or so, but these foundations and advocates, they only want to work with the parents who they know are innocent, right? You don't want to advocate for the person that and hide the person and highlight them like we're seeing that's happening on YouTube streets with Chris and Katie. Advocates don't want to polish turds, right? They want a parent who is absolutely wanting to find their child and deserving of the type of help that the advocates can bring them. In my opinion, Seth is deserving of that. Absolutely. Every time I go back and watch these older ones, I'm like, see, this is why. This is why. I mean, right here. Oh, Town Chat says, Lady Freedom, if I email you something right now that I just heard, can you read it? Yeah, let me look. I'm sure you emailed it to. Let me go ahead and play this clip really quick. I have one more for y'all.
Craddock also said it could play a role. You know, in his interview, which I had pulled up on, I think it was the 2nd or 4th of April, as I recall, there was inference that it could play a role. I think that's almost the exact words that were used. But I don't recall whether it was he that said that or whether that was Barris. I shouldn't say I don't recall. I believe that's what was said, that it could end up playing a role. So is that part of interpretation? Anyway, I challenge each of you who care about this case. Let's treat this from now on like a cold case, because I think it's sort of how it needs to be treated, at least for us out here that don't have the full picture like law enforcement has. And we need to start from the beginning, look at all the clues that are out there. But do I believe it's foul play? Yes, I do, by somebody. We have so many clues about that. I've rethought also, I was very adamant about the search at the landfill, because in my experience, you do not do landfill searches. First of all, you can't do them without a warrant, which means you have to have probable cause to believe that either the person's there you're looking for, or evidence of him being hurt in some way, some sort of evidence is there related to that missing person. That's what you have to show in an affidavit. Can't wait to read that affidavit someday. But it was interesting in watching last week when I interviewed Doug, who works a lot of missing persons cases in regard to searching waterways. Doug said that he's seeing that more and more. That was something we never did in the FBI unless you had true probable cause to believe something was there. You couldn't just do some sort of haphazard warrant that was like, well, there's somebody missing, so let's look in the trash. But Doug said that's happening, at least in the cases he's been working more often, which made me also rethink this. When you have a set of facts, and as you're looking at a case, when you get other information that comes in, you have to evaluate it. And I evaluated that and thought, is this a new trend? Now, if it is, I think it's absolutely ridiculous, because it would not give a warrant the proper search and seizure type requirements to me, in my opinion. It just doesn't protect that Fourth Amendment that we all have. So I would hope that they don't have some sort of boilerplate language and go in and search. And the other thing is, as you know, they only searched for hours. It wasn't a search like what they did with Quentin Simon. Remember, Quentin Simon, even though they had the exact location that he was dumped, because they had the exact dumpster he was dumped into, and then that individual, they knew the exact time it was picked up after he was dumped, and that dumpster driver knew exactly where he dropped it off and poured it into the receptacle that then went to the dump. Can you imagine? That's how much specificity they had. They knew the precise grid locations at that dump, and it took them 5 weeks of searching. The FBI's ERT team, the premier of premier, that team that went out there and conducted the side-by-side search of that area for 5 grueling weeks. And finally, they found Quentin Simon. So just going out for a few hours, remember, it was several days later, that's never going to cut it to be able to search a dump. It's never going to cut it, because you have to search east, west, north, south, and up, down in grueling conditions. So anyway, that will always bother me, but I'm trying to keep my mind open that maybe this is some new trend that in missing cases, because that's what Doug said, that they're starting to do that more and more. Anyway, I want to see what your thoughts are over here. We can't give up on Sebastian. We need to look at this as a cold case. We need to go back and review clues that we have. Nick, At Night, and Dog that are working together. They need to keep working together to provide that venue for people to possibly call in, because they're getting activity. It's just a fact. And law enforcement, I believe, is also having activity. So let's keep the faith that Sebastian Rogers is still alive, and that if he is not alive, that law enforcement can make a case on whoever is responsible for taking this beautiful young boy's life.
Okay, guys, so I found that was kind of strange that she said whoever's responsible for taking his life, because she didn't offer up any other scenarios there with, along with that. And thank you, Marshmallow Moo. Yes, we love Maman. She is really tough for justice. She is. And she really cares, and really, really knowledgeable too, can bring a whole lot to the table. Town Chat Cafe says that, in my opinion, I agree with hindsight too, that he allegedly didn't go home either from the Texas Roadhouse. And, I will say too, that I was kind of on the fence myself with that, right? For a little while, I was like, well, but then I was like, well, but if I don't believe that, then I don't know about the lights, and why would they bring people back towards the house? But that BP thing is intriguing, I will say. I wish we had a picture or something, just something to see. Meg, you guys, Doug, because you're tough on justice too, Meg. That's why I have you as a mod. Little Miss Sharon says Doug also said that there are many people missing in Sumner County, and that Sebastian is their worst nightmare. Yeah, and I mean, I think that they want all of the positive accolades that come with finding him, right? Wouldn't it be great? And I mean, that's another thing that I'm sure is a bit of a motivation as well. Vic, because you look good in blue, Meg. Vic, I don't know either. Hindsight says Town Chat agreed. In my opinion, either the post about BP gas station stop was truth or another place. Yeah, I mean, handoffs can happen really, really quickly, right? I mean, really, really quickly. And then I also, Town Chat, I did get, it was a 10-minute video from Crime Time, and I saw that, but I didn't see anything actually to read in there. But I'll definitely play that one tomorrow because it looks really, really good. Hey, MS. MS says, Meg, why don't you like Jen Coffindaffer? And that's the thing. I don't think that people are disliking Jen. I think it's more like, I think people were sideswiped today, or sideswiped. Whew, blindsided today. I got up early today. Can't you guys tell? I'm a little bit loopy today. But yeah, I don't think it's a dislike. I think it's just more like disagreeing with a lot of the things. You know what I mean? Yeah, and see, that's, Meg, that speaking the truth so I don't have to. No, I'm just kidding. But no, really, that's how I feel. I'm not a fan of people who flip-flop pertaining to Sebastian. Like, I am just, no. Mm-mm. And I was totally blindsided. I was not expecting this. Like I said, totally different show planned, everything. Then I got intrigued by this. And then I thought back, like, oh gosh, I got to pull all these, I mean, and there was even more interviews that I would have loved to have pulled and compared. There was just so much wrong with the statements today, I think she might have been flip-flopping, and see, Meg says I don't like her. And, and I will say there was a lot of things that I disagreed with her on myself before Sebastian's case, not even just commentary and different things, but this I was not expecting. And like I said, I think it was more like I thought of her as more of a reliable source. Now, of course, I have not seen these Ring camera footages and things, you know, of that nature. I'm again, when a big event comes and I see this, I might have a totally different view. But you know, and like you said earlier, Meg, too, I feel like just anybody that is on Sebastian's side, I'm gonna be supportive of them, right? Because it's like I want Sebastian to be found, and the more people, the merrier, because it's just better. More brains thinking, more, you know, manpower, more people raising awareness, more sharing of the flyers and the billboards. All that stuff is good. Vanna says, I dislike her. In fact, I despise her. Well, and you know, a lot of people, thanks, Lori. A lot of people probably kind of feel some type of way today, and that's really why I wanted to talk about it, you know, so I like hearing your guys' perspective. Polly's Cookie says, no, Vic, not cool at all. Was close enough, Lady Freedom. Vic. Thank you. And SI Officer says, perfect example of what I was saying about people backtracking and then backing off. Right. And that's frustrating. That is super frustrating, right? It's like, what are you doing? Like, I feel like I'm corralling cats every day, you know, and I'm not saying the cats are bad or anything like that. But it's just like, and they're feral, they're wild cats. They're not domesticated whatsoever. And they're just like, meow, you know, like every day. And it's always going on. And I'm like, who is doing it now? Who's doing it now? Sometimes I'm the one doing it probably, you know, but I try not to do stuff that's too off the wall. I try to be pretty predictable for you guys. I try to be predictable for you so you can feel a sense of safety when you're here, that I'm not going to just go rogue on you guys and be like, CP was very correct when he decided to, you know, brag about hitting Sebastian with the belt. And, you know, I can see CP's point on, you know, no, that's never going to happen. That is never going to happen. And Sammy says, grinds my bones when SF and others say I don't see anything funny. I see a kid having a nice meal with his mom and a mom taking pictures of her kid. And then we're having a nice evening together. Seek therapy, people, please. Amen, Sammy. And you know, the thing is that you're so spot on with that. The picture is weird. You know, I mean, I take pictures. I'm a picture person too. But people know when I'm taking the picture of them, right? Unless it's like a cute moment that you're capturing. But who does that? And the way that Katie was taking that picture, I'm sorry. She looked like she was being very sneaky. Like she didn't want Sebastian to know that it was being taken. Who takes a picture with their hand propped up with their phone like this? Who does that? Who does that? It's weird. Therapy is much needed. Much needed therapeutic retreat, recourse. Yeah, 0 of my time. I can't with it anymore, Meg. You know what my problem is if it's like a true flip flop, I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. You know, I'm trying to be a little bit objective and, you know, try to gather a little bit more information, but before I kind of make up my mind, but I'm pretty sure it feels that way and it seems like that. And if it's a, you know, walks like a duck, cracks like a duck, it's a duck. But yeah, we can't give these people any more time. If they're willing to do some of these things in a, you know, very matter-of-fact way, then, you know, you really can't support them or give them your time or trust them for that matter, you know, in my opinion. Polly's Cookie says, I might say Jen has lost me as a fan, lost respect, so no, or she knows those lights are evidentiary value. She knows. I know. And that is weird. And see, that is the flip-flop, right? In my opinion. The lights video is the first kind of like really big one, right? Because that's how I originally heard about what was going on. Is that somebody was like, Jen just, you know, just said that she doesn't believe the lights video. This is, you know, what a weirdo or something. It was funny. The person who sent it to me knows what they said. And I was like, oh God. And then and then again, I just typed back, why? Just why? Like, that was my reaction. Because I was like, again, corralling cats. What is happening right now? What is going on? Here I am, just planning for a different show. Next thing I know, it's, craziness. Yeah, well, I was looking for your email. I see, was it this one from Crime Time Buzz? Sorry, there's probably like a hardcore glare. I like that new billboard, though. You guys see that? That's a beauty. Hold on, let me show you. It's a good looking billboard right there. And it's green. So. Yeah, she also knows that Mob Crew is badass. Like, what is going on? Like, weird, right? I'll say it again. Jeez. Meg says, Jesus Christmas. One lady said I can see CP's point. I thought she was serious for a second and almost threw my wrench across the room. Almost threw my wrench across the room. I didn't even tell you. Y'all the duck. Oh my god, Meg, you're cracking me up. No, God, no. Could you imagine if I decided to come up here and, like, these are the reasons why Chris Proudfoot is probably innocent. I would never do that to you guys. I would expect you guys to, like, throw tomatoes at me, or something. I don't dislike Jen. I'm frustrated on how she thinks like that. Me too, Little Miss Sharon. I feel like that too. I'm frustrated as hell, but I'm glad that I got up here and talked with you guys about it too. And, like, we kind of went over things too, because maybe it'll put things into perspective. And maybe when you see it again side by side, it, it kind of refreshes your memory. I mean, there's been times where I've looked at things and been like, oh no, the first time I saw it wrong, or whatever, the second time, whatever. Or you go back and watch it again and you're like, oh, I missed that or something, so it definitely happens. Very sneaky, right, Lori? That the way she said it on the table like that was weird. Like, she didn't want him to see it. Marshmallow Moose says, strategy we may not understand. She cried for Sebastian's dad. I think she is on the right side. Just my thoughts. Yeah, well, and that's another way to look at it. That maybe she wants to sit back and see what people have to say about it. So, yeah, I mean, in either way, I don't hate people I disagree with. That's just, it's not the way that I am. I can disagree with somebody and not hate their guts. And, Detroit Rock City, good to see you, Detroit. Says every picture tells a story, don't it? Sure does. Yeah. And that's why they don't want us to see these things, right? Because we see these things for ourselves. We're like, wow, that's crazy, I mean, or even, let's just look at this little number that they put out not too long ago. Let's see. I still got it in here? Yeah. So, Sebastian doesn't have electronics. He doesn't have full access. I mean, look, this little cute little self sitting there with that computer and a phone. And he's like, hey, guys, I got the full setup over here. When we take a closer look at Sebastian, just as cute as he can be, like I said, his little face, and then you look at how they blurred something out in this photo. And I mean, they did such a horrible job of blurring this photo out that the poor kid, it looks like his skin is kind of like seeping out onto the light fixture, or the light cover. You can see I'm getting tired. But I mean, come on. Anybody that does editing can see that somebody tried to blur something out on his neck. Tell me that kid wasn't abused because he had a fucking cookie cake. Are you kidding me right now? you know? I'm not fond of SF. No, me neither. Me neither, Meg. You know? I mean, Town Chat Cafe says, yeah, holding her phone like that, she was trying to be sneaky, but it was just too obvious. She was up to no good, in my opinion. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Up to no good. And the way she was looking around, you know, very ominously, in my opinion. Absolutely. Town Chat Cafe says, hindsight, yes, in my opinion, I agree. If not the gas station, I didn't realize it was a BP until just now. Thank you for that info. And anyways, yes, in my opinion, there was a handoff before he got home, and I believe it was Kay. Interesting, guys. That's really interesting. That took the trash out. Well, and a lot of people have speculated that it was maybe Lori's son that could have taken the trash out, and I think that that's a very strong possibility too, Town Chat Cafe. I mean, I have considered it, absolutely. Detroit, Lori says Detroit 100. Ivana says, JC says what she thinks people want to hear until she weasels her way in. And then this is when she begins to give screwy info, but some truth then turns Anya because she has foot in the door. Oh, I see. I see. I mean, and I do understand, you know, wanting to kind of go with the popular opinion, but we just have to go with where the facts lead us, you know, and I wish people would maintain that, you know, effort, because it is hard. I mean, you know, Sammy says then not doing anything does not necessitate a conclusion that there is no evidence where Sumner has so many people missing. No sense. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you would think it would look bad on Sumner County, and they wouldn't want that, you know? That's the kicker, Sammy. I agree. You know, and they still haven't told anybody, you know, and it's not like they've come out and been like, we think that Sebastian was abducted. There's somebody on the loose. Hide your, you know, kids. Don't let them outside and stuff like that, or curfew or something like that. No, we didn't hear anything like that. As a matter of fact, that's the last thing that we heard from law enforcement. One of the last things was that, you know, there was no evidence that Sebastian ever left the house. That was, you know, said. Meg says, Vic, 100, 100, 100, even though I'm not normally the best in that department. Oh. Well, thanks, Vic. Thank you. Oh. Vic says, Lady Freedom, no, she said Sebastian was crossed over. I'm livid. Oh, my goodness. Crossed over, huh? Oh, my Lord. I'm going to have to go back and listen and pick that out. Vic, my goodness. That is so crazy. See, and I caught the part where she said whoever is responsible for, you know, taking this beautiful child's life. And I was like, oh boy, you know, didn't speculate on the other things. That's a good catch, Vic. Oh my gosh. SI officer says, or just my opinion, the cousin was there, aka the niece could have taken the garbage out. Yeah, well, SI officer, that is really, really cloudy too, since all of that other information came to light, you know? Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to pull in some of that stuff that you guys were sending me over from Crime Time Buzz. And we'll kind of pull in. And then I want to look more into that interview with Pascal and Seth, because I think that would be a good one, just to kind of pull some more details in from earlier on. Yeah, we'll have to re-listen to that because I didn't hear that either, Detroit. But I love you guys all so very, very much. But I got up early today and I'm barely keeping my eyes open. But it was so nice to have all of you guys and go over this because I really wanted to show everybody kind of the clips that Jen was talking about. And, you know, maybe after she goes back and looks at the clips and stuff, she'll say, oh yeah, okay, that is kind of how it looks, or something like that. Or, you know, maybe she'll be able to point out some things. The beard the beards. I get intimidated by beards of that magnitude. You're welcome, Vic. Thank you so much. Blessings hindsight. Lori says yes. JC did say that right at the end of her show. Okay, maybe I needed to pull. I took the little piece out of it, so let me go back and look. Okay, I will do that. Thank you, Lori. Because yeah, I bet you I might have taken that little piece out of there. But yes, thank you all so much for being here. We're going to go over more tomorrow night. We are not letting Sebastian's case get cold. That's all I have to say about this. You know, we will not let it happen. It's about we the people. What we want goes, guys. Don't ever forget that. And if we want Sebastian found, he's going to be found. Just remember that. You know, the negativity can really suck us in, right? I'm guilty of it too. I get sucked into negativity all the time, you know, all the time. But we can't let that happen here, right? Because there's like all these other angles that people are going through to try to like distract us. We can't let it happen. And I don't want to hear cold. I don't want to hear it. I don't. Not at this juncture. Not yet. I'm not thinking that. You know, ask me at the 2.5 year mark. Just kidding. But you know, like seriously, if it was 2 years in and we're, you know, sitting here, maybe, but no, there is so much interest. So much interest. We just had the billboards come out. Good night, Miss Ann. Good night, guys. I wish they would too, Town Chat. Yeah, I do too. And I'm going to get you over like the pieces of the Texas Roadhouse video. I'm just kind of looking through all of them to make sure. But a lot of them too are on Dogs. I know on Dog the Bounty Hunter, the official YouTube page. But I'll send them over to you too. The ones that I can kind of find. Thanks, little Miss Sharon. Thank you. Yeah, we gotta stay Sebastian strong. We're not letting this get cold. It's up to us in that regard, because whoever wants to hear about it and everything, that's who's going to determine whether it gets cold or not, in my opinion. Now, what law enforcement does, I don't know. Maybe she's preparing us for what law enforcement's about to do. I have no idea. I'm still wondering. Detroit says, thank you for all the prayers for my granddaughter's baby girl. Oh, they took her off of everything and she's breathing on her own. Oh, yay. She's coming home today. Yay, Detroit. That's fantastic. I believe in the power of prayer. So absolutely. That is wonderful. Oh, thank you for giving us an update too. Thank you. Good night, SI officers. Stay safe out there. Good night, Lori. Good night, little Miss Sharon. Thank you guys. Yeah. And, definitely peace and positivity. Peace and positivity, right? Blessed. Good night. Love you guys. Love you, Detroit. Thank you, Vic. You guys are amazing.